In the midst of the chaos, here I am. Here I am, right? Here I am, live. Welcome to the Condor DM show. Tonight I'm covering Metamorphosis Alpha. Tabletop role playing game. It's going to be good. It's going to be fun. Yes, yes. Oh my. Oh my. Stuck up a video today just explaining my recent take on pacing, and I think the misunderstanding many people have when I put out stuff like that. It's I'm not trying to control the hobby. I don't believe I can. I don't believe I can control each individual's table and what they do. And I don't, and the people that sort of disagree with me, I guess, they think they can tell me how everybody in the hobby is going to game going forward, as if they control every table there is. I've never believed that. It's never been something the hobby is about. I don't try to control a narrative, right? So I had a number of responses on different platforms like, hey man, it's like too bad. This is just the way it is going forward. Oh, like maybe for you, right? But it's like, look, if I inform people about something and they like what they hear and they want to take that back to their table and try it and they like the outcome, they'll do whatever they want to do. That's how that works. You know, the best thing you can do is just trust people to do what they want. I just give out information or something I think is not out there, and then I leave people to make up their own mind. The idea of edition wars to me has always been stupid. It doesn't mean we shouldn't debate issues or be honest and speak honestly about things, but I don't look at it like a war. To me, if I say there's a difference between editions, it's just maybe speaking the truth. I don't let people use labels or pigeonhole me into a situation where it's, oh, edition wars are dumb. Yeah, but telling the truth is not stupid. So you can call that whatever you want to call it, right? So if I criticize an issue with a game, call it whatever you want. You're just not going to shut me up. You can say it's drama. I'm just discussing the truth or my opinions, right? So how people paint what I say or how I say it, I don't give a damn. That's just people trying to control the dialogue in the hobby. So, and if people think they can control the whole future of how people are going to game, go ahead, or somehow they know the future of how the gaming is going to go. We're always going to do 2 hour sessions. Hey, dude, if you want to do that, go ahead. Do 2 hours all you want, but I'm pretty sure you don't speak for everybody in the hobby. And there's a lot of open minded people out there that, well, if they hear something they haven't even thought of before and they've not been informed on it, maybe they want to try that thing. And there's a lot of old ideas that have been forgotten that are very good, still good. They were good back then. So I don't get why an idea that was good back then, if it's good back then, it can be just as good now, right? Oh my. Just we're talking about games here. I believe in talking to each other, not having wars and tribalism and walls between different groups and different people. I think that's stupid. All right. Good evening, Philo. How you doing? Glad you can make it. Metamorphosis Alpha. It's going to be a good stream. This one is about space, but don't think like spaceship combat travel. Think of like a space in a different way, like a space station type of, you're centered here. It's a world in itself. And I don't want to say too much because I'd start giving it all away, right? So we'll leave it at that, right? We'll leave it at that. I don't want to say too much because it's going to be good. I mean, I just want to leave the meat on the bone for when I get to the coverage of the game. So as long as you're into space, it is quite interesting. I'll put this much out there. It's about mutants and robots and future stuff. So it's not like medieval stuff in space. Oh, well then, geez, if you like the concept of like a DS9 or Babylon 5 or something in that vein, this can be very interesting. It's a bit of a conspiracy game if you want to look at it like that, like a conspiracy for the characters anyway, or it's meant to be like mystery. Oh, I understand. I understand how that works. I'll probably be able to start a little early. So usually I start at 8, but I'll probably be starting this at around 7. So we'll see how much you can get out of it. Get the fluff. I think I can at least give you the idea of the game before you get a crash out on me, which is good. And if you like it that much, of course, you know how it works, Philo. If you like what you hear that much, you can always come back and listen to the rest when you get time, right? Like if you think it's worth it, come back because it's a hyped game. I love it myself. I find it very interesting. It's lovely when you find players out there not trying to learn every detail about a game and they like the idea of, unless they're going to run it, they don't put that much time into it because they want to face mystery. But usually you only get that when somebody has a game master or somebody like me they can trust. And so they won't rush to try to spoil a thing for themselves, right? I heard a panel recently talking about IP games, Star Wars, Star Trek, and making stuff up. And they were really like, oh, the conversation seemed so out there to me because my experience with IP games and how I do things has just been completely different. I mean, that's the most I will say compared to what I heard. It's like I'll hear them speaking about it, and then they'll talk about like usually, or another panel I heard was usually you're gaming at home with your friends. No, that's not true. That's like 10% of the hobby, especially back in the old school. Most people didn't have friend groups. So what you find, this is why tournament play was pushed by TSR, especially. So when you hear a guy say most people back in the old school like play at home with their friends, that is, I mean, it's so anti-reality. It's not even close to the truth. 90% of people didn't have friend groups to play with. 10% of people, if not less, played at home. And TSR understood that. That's a big reason for tournament play. WotC understood that as well. That's why online play became a huge gimmick. Why do you think online play is so huge? Because the majority of people in the hobby do not play at home with their friends. So I mean, I just so many delusions. I've heard this for years, and I thought that was squashed. Like people like that debate was over. Like, no, dude, less than 10% of people played at home with their friends. Like, I just got to be real with you. Like it's just so untrue. Most people met new people at their school. I mean, it doesn't mean you don't make friends in the process of gaming. I don't deny that, but the idea that you were just always at home with your friends and there was some guarantee of that, it's not even true. I do rewatch later when I have to leave early or come too late. History. Well, I expect if you like what you're hearing, then you come back later for sure. But yeah, that there is no debate here. Less than 10% of people play at home in a secluded way with their friends. It's not even close to true that is what most people do. It's not even it's a tiny minority of people in the hobby. I mean, it's not even debatable, right? It's the vast majority of people do not have friend groups, just the way it is. Oh, well, you extend the circle. Of course, you almost have to because most people won't always or already have a group. That's what you're going to find out if you're in the at-home group and you extend out. You find most people, because this is what you'll find, because this is what TSR, their marketing division, found, was most people don't have that, right? It's just, but it's the same back in the old school. I did public game mastering. Trust me, man. There was tons of gaming. When I say public, meaning I go recruit at libraries, or maybe I recruit at a game shop. It doesn't mean we play there. Don't misunderstand. A lot of people have very simple-minded views of what public gaming is when you mention it to them, right? Public gaming is just you meet up with people in a variety of places. You recruit people in a variety of places, school, libraries, whatever. And then maybe you go to somebody's home, right? Maybe you even go like, you come to my place, we go to your place or whatever. And you can make friends, but if you're a public game master, you're constantly opening up to going out and recruiting people you don't know. And the reason that was so easy back in the day and still is, like as far as like you'll find the majority of people online, say if you're running the right game, the reason why that's so easy for most people is because that's where like 90% of people are public gaming. where they don't have a friend group. So it's just we get some content creators on here and people on X, and they take their very secluded, very tiny minority experience, and they assume that to be true for everyone. And I'm like, oh man, I mean, even TSR knew that wasn't true for everyone. Wizards of the Coast knows that's not true for everyone. Oh, tournament play was so common when it first came. It just didn't last long. It wasn't hot, right? But then, like public gaming, especially early online, Merc, stuff like that. But even if you went out like into different places where like we had, we call them mini cons, like, military group stuff like this, where they would have civilian family get together, stuff like that, especially where I was, you'd find out the vast majority of people just do not have an at-home group. Like their friends aren't playing. There's a lot of nerds don't have friends initially. So, and most home gamers that had an already built-in friend group, a lot of them had your experience. They would be shocked. They'd open up and start being open, other people join them, and they just realize, wow, there's a lot of people that could potentially join us here. Oh man. And the way people would search for people back in the day was very careless. If you didn't know how to do it, it'd be hard. So I could understand some people's experience would be assumptions that that's not the case. But if you went to the right places, you could just find a surplus, right? Just had to know where to look. Oh, something like that. And wargaming. Wargaming was a very public gaming thing. You didn't have groups of friends just playing wargaming. There'd be clubs. And a lot of the clubs for wargaming is where you'd meet people that started getting together for tabletop role-playing games. Common. Now, why? Because most people in the hobby do not have an at-home group where they're isolated with a group already built in to play with. Right? So again, even when isolated groups would open the door, they'd start getting people. Even weirder is people talking about introducing new people to the hobby. Like, oh, I can introduce them through this game or this game, and they might be interested. I'm like, dude, you just don't know where to look because there's a surplus of people that are ready to get in any game, right? Most of my groups were family members. See, but that's 90% of people didn't have that. Monkey. 90% in the hobby and the old school didn't have that. They were nerds. They didn't even have friends, not even slightly. Right? But then when a public game master like me goes out, what I find out is I'm doing a fucking big job. The reason I had to keep bringing in new groups and new people and going through so many players is because it's like you just start finding out. And now, don't get it, they're shy, but they'll show up in places. And I have the nerve to talk to them like, hey, you're looking at this? You interested in this? Yeah, come on over. And you find out these are not people that you have to go, hey, are you interested in Star Wars? Yeah, I like Star Wars. Want to try a tabletop role-playing game? If you were having that much trouble finding players and you try to bring players in like that, it just meant you weren't looking in the right places. Right? Because nerds would go to certain locations and just be open. Nerds, a library was a very popular place, especially where I was, to get people, right? So it was easy. Gaming shops, yeah, they hang out there. And if you were patient, they'd cycle in and out just to look at items. A lot of guys that would just shop at shops if they existed in your area, if you went to the shop, they weren't gaming at the shops the way people think. That people have a very simple-minded view of public gaming. I'm like, public gaming is no different than what you're doing at home. It's just I got to go out, recruit players in public places, and then I can bring them back to my place. Or we could game at the library, or we could do something, but it'd still be long sessions, campaigns. Sorry for a military helicopter in the background. I live close to military, and usually they're not supposed to be flying a helicopter right now, or usually they don't. We do not gatekeep people out. And recently I learned that there were several other groups independent of ours in the area. And that I guarantee they still weren't taking up all the people that wanted to play. There were so many. There was more people. Like we forget the sales of like AD&D 1D. You look at the sales and then you look at the amount of people playing around and you realize, okay, that doesn't even cover, like even for the home groups, the sales do not match up with how many people are playing at home. Like the sales are a surplus. So if you have a surplus of sales, what's happening? Right? You're not accounting for 90% of the people in the hobby. Right? So the sales are overwhelming. The at home gaming is very limited, even around the area that you're in. Right? So it's like you might have 5 groups, but sales were books and material that was enough to cover 1,000 people around you. Well, then where the fuck did the rest go? Why aren't there more groups? Why aren't there a surplus of groups? Why isn't that common? Maybe there's a war in Canada. I don't know. It's just usually they don't fly the helicopter over this time. So usually I get a little annoyed when they do things out of order because I purposely try to avoid certain noises. I can't avoid all life noises, but that one is quite irritating. Anyway, I would get out and fill up a group in no time. It'd be like breathing air, especially online when the online started stuff. Like I did over a decade of in-person game mastering, and I've never stopped in-person gaming. That's always been a thing for me, my bread and butter. But I started doing some of the online stuff. When I started online, man, it was like going to groups, and right away there'd be like 10,000 on the group. And these are not people with at-home groups. Like the online world gave it away. Like if you thought there wasn't a surplus of people without at-home groups looking to play, the online world busted that delusion. So I still don't get some of the YouTubers around that will be like, yeah, most people played it. Dude, that's your isolated experience. And you're just assuming without any knowledge that means everyone else went through what you went through. Though you would get online and realize just how many people didn't have groups. And if you start realizing the numbers showing up, you'd start realizing, holy fuck. I mean, all these people don't have groups. I knew that personally, just from life experience and being out there as a public game master. But I could tell still to this day the lack of acknowledgement of that because people are so small minded. I hate to say it, I just pick on some YouTubers that are just so their assumptions become facts to them. They assume this, and they'll state an assumption with no evidence at all as complete fact. Right? There won't even be a hint that this is what I think. No, they'll be like, this is what I know. And to me, that's not good because it's just not the reality for most people in the hobby, right? Groups usually segregate into whatever games they like most. Not all like other medieval, but all had some common games. Not even that. You want to know what? Most public people would play any game they can get their hand on if you knew where to look. So again, this is what blew my mind, especially if you got a competent game master like me that's going to offer you a game. And I'm very upfront with my communication. Like I'd hear about people having a hard time running Star Trek games or Star Wars games because people had an expectation. I'm like, well, first off, I don't bust what the game is offering or the information the game is telling me about. Even if I haven't watched the movie, I don't really care. The game is going to give me all the information I need. And then I decide what I want to do with that. But I mean, I don't overkill trying to add new things in there. When I try new things, it might be more mechanical. That was the way I was with D&D too. More mechanical, but don't get it wrong. With some things, I would try something new. But you look for an area where you can be neutral, then you just communicate clearly. I just never had players have an issue with something. So when I hear about these things like, man, you got to stick to this and Star Trek, I'm like, no, you don't. That's absolutely bullshit. And it's a minority. So when you hear these purists in the hobby, it's a minority of purists. See, here's what you find out, Philo. Minorities have the loudest voices. So if you only take in what you've heard people say out loud, there's always a silent majority. And I mean, the silent majority is a fucking vast amount of people. It's not like a silent majority and they're just like 51%. No, like the purists for, like, say, Star Trek or Star Wars, they'll represent 3% of the people that would play Star Wars. So that means you got 97% of people that would play Star Wars that are way more open-minded. But if you're listening to what people say about Star Wars, you'll hear the purist because they have the loudest voices in the room. The minority usually always does, right? People that want to control things usually talk very loud. They do, but then here's what confuses people, Philo. And this is what really poisons the dialogue around here with a lot of YouTubers and people going on panels. They speak as if that minority represents a majority. And even their lack of experience themselves, it's again, they extend that out to everyone in the hobby. It's like, no, dude, I had a completely different experience with everything you just said. I don't even understand what you're saying. Like it's so foreign to me. It's so alien to me that I don't even get it. I don't even get it. Like I just recently listened to a panel. I don't have no issue with the host of the panel or the channel. I'm not saying names. No issue with certain people. I just want to make that clear. Just I listened to a bit of it. I had time. I usually don't. But you guys know I had a couple of weeks here, a little bit more free time. I haven't listened to a bunch of stuff, but I took the time to listen to probably a good, skimming, like 25 minutes. And I was just like, what the fucking kind of experience have these guys had in gaming? This is fucking maddening. It's completely alien to me. I don't even understand what they're talking about. Like, it just so doesn't relate with what I went through. They owed it myself as a right-wing extremist. Nowadays, everybody's a right-wing extremist, I think, but we'll leave that at that, right? I just don't care. It's something I don't care about in the hobby. That's another thing. Years ago, and this, I just wouldn't take part in it. They were like, we're all against a certain woke. I was like, that's not what the hobby's about, dude. Well, they're trying to take over the hobby. They can't. Well, they can't. TSR did things with D&D I didn't like. Do you think I bothered listening to them? Most 5e people you'll meet exit so much out of the game they don't like. It just you have to figure out that what you think has sway in the hobby. Now, do they have sway on new products coming out from a certain company? Fair enough, yeah. But so what? So what? They'll never have control over the hobby, and you have to argue the basic things that make sense to people. Don't make it a political tribal warfare. Representation has to be one of the most obvious flaws in the argument. Okay, what are we all doing? Trying to play people that are not us as part of the escapism. I mean, basically, the entire hobby is anti-representation. So you don't even need to be on a certain side of politics just to go, that's dumb. The entire gimmick of the hobby has nothing to do with that. It will naturally be opposed. I mean, look, it's not like hey man, I want to play a guy who casts spells. I can't do that. The whole point is to be somebody else that's not you, somebody opposite, and to escape your own issues. So if escapism is the gimmick to escape your own hardship in life, you don't put your hardship from life into the game. You don't put none of that. And it's like, oh, there's more. Look, if you're a black person who wants to play a black character, you go ahead and do that. A lot of black guys I knew played white knights. I'm just being dead serious. But it's just because they could, because it's a fantasy game and you play something you're not. And I've never said you can't do that. Well, they should be represented more in the games. Well, there's plenty of games that there were just black people in it and Asian people. So representation happened in the 80s. There's entire Asian games for D&D that are all Asian people. There's entire sectors of Arab stuff and black people. So it's like, we did that. Don't have to do it again. Already been done. And you don't have to change medieval white Europe. It's like, we're not going to go into the Asian game and turn all those people into white people. So that's all it is. We're allowed to represent things the way they pretty much are, right? okay, then if you can represent everything and still represent things properly at the same time, there's no bigotry. Representation's there. Calm down. So representation, as far as just representing, I guess, different people in that way, was already done. Most can't have 18 strength or 18 charisma like me anyway. I hear you. But it's my point was just like looking at it like it's like, what are you doing here? This stuff just won't hold. And it doesn't. Most people don't bother. Like if you go to a group of certain people, they'll just play it like it's white Europe. Like they don't give a fuck. That's most 5e people. Like they just naturally do this without even thinking about it. I'm like, yeah, because it won't work. So the struggle to fight with woke is, look, the products didn't sell that well. That should have been the big issue for WotC right there. They didn't make as much money as they could have. There, that's the boom. But I would never get in on the whole anti-woke thing. To me, most of that was to rage bait and go after a very small, though it's a small percentage. This percentage can be like 10,000 or more, but it's a ceiling. Like if you rage bait to that group, even most of the old school won't support you. And it's like, look, there's millions worldwide of active people from the old school era that are online. They're active in their purchasing. You can see it. So if you look at the old school tabletop role-playing game YouTubers, you realize, oh, you have 8,000. Man, well, there's 5 million people. Why the fuck aren't even like 10% of them watching you? Oh, the Metamorphosis Alpha. Bill. If you read some of it, I know you already like it. I got all the meat on the bone for this one, so it'll be a good refresher. But this one, I like personally. I like space stations. I like the Babylon 5. I like the idea. Like I would like to maybe one day do like a Deep Space Nine, Star Trek gimmick. I like space stations. It's always been a thing. Though, unlike many space games, because I've had some people ask me this week, so what are the spaceships like in this one? I'm like, wrong game, dude. Like what? I'm like, this is not really about spaceship travel and spaceship combats. It's not. Metamorphosis Alpha is a bit of a sort of conspiracy theory, not from the real world, but like a conspiracy theory for the characters, right? Like a mystery. And there's a bit of conspiracy in the whole thing. There's mutants and robots. And I don't want to say too much because then I start giving away some of the juicier stuff about Metamorphosis Alpha. And I don't want to do that, right? But that's some basic stuff right there. That's some basic stuff. No, but I just never... Here's where I grew up. I came into the hobby in 1987, and most of the people I sat down a game with were opposite of me in politics. And I'm like, you know what I was told? We leave that stuff at the door. And that was how I was introduced. We leave that stuff at the door. And then I went on for decades to play with people of all kinds of different beliefs. And so I still believe that to be true. And as a content creator, I don't want to be in the war. I don't want to be in addition wars. I just like talking the truth. So I hate when people label you just speaking truth as addition wars. I think it's bullshit, just the labeling of you discussing gaming issues or things. And I don't like the idea of tribalism walls going up between people, because what you assume most people on the other side are like, it's just not true. Like if you assume most 5e people are people with a certain color hair going crazy, you're wrong. It's a very small percentage of that side of the fence that are actually like that. Most people are just nerds. Now, they're not like old school nerds, but they're just fucking nerds. And a lot of new nerds dress like normal people. So it's hard to really tell between, I guess you would count normal people and nerds. I got many of the books, just never found a crowd for it. Same thing, challenging the dreaming. I got lucky by building up. Here's, I think, maybe, because I've heard so much about this. One moment. Okay, just listening noise. I've heard so much about people having issues. I think it's just I built up credibility around people, that even people that didn't play my game would just be like, well, Steven's offering, it's probably going to be good. And I would usually, I was usually good at understanding what designers wanted and then creating an experience through the pacing and the imagination. And when you do a good job and you get people into the flow, right? And you have a good reputation, not heard. Driving but listening in. Yes, you'll like this one. Drive away. You don't have to send 50 comments, but you'll like this one. Can't play nice, stay out of the oak. There you go, Bill. 100% agreed. I always believe leave it at the door. Leave it at the door. That's why I would never play rage bait against a certain political group or something. I was like, look, it's just like everybody has the right to be in the hobby, and everyone has the right to be able to communicate and talk. It's like, it's like, I don't want people to think on one side of the fence I'm opposed to them or I want to play in the tribe thing. So I never felt like joining a certain group of people that don't like me now, especially, but years ago, they all thought they were uniting against a certain thing. I was like, I totally get it. I have nothing against what you want to do in life, but I was like, I'm not in on that, right? It's I was still talking to so many new school people at the time that I just knew right away. If you think you might be opposed to, I guess, some of the WotC actions, but to me that was stupid too, because look, the hobby is going to go in a certain direction, and if it flops, it flops. And if it flops, even the market can't stand on it anymore. So if they keep doing stupid things that just do not play to the game, like representation, if it just doesn't play well to the game, doesn't sell the books that well, sooner or later they'll adjust. Like that's just how it is. And WotC is finding that out now. They keep trying to push stuff, and it's not appealing. It's just not appealing. It's not appealing to most people. Like, guess what? That old knight white European gimmick for D&D, which is what most people assume, even the new school, that sells better overall to everyone of every race, everything. Anybody who's going to be interested in D&D has a classic look on it. Now, there's themes and concepts and settings that are completely, say, Asian or Arab, and they're interesting. I would have said, instead of trying to break up what the European look to D&D is, bring out these old things, right? Bring out these old ideas. There's nothing wrong. But hey, they want to play modern day politics. And I just said to myself, it just won't appeal to most people. And you're going to go after an audience where you got to look at the hobby. Let's see, there's maybe 8% of those people in the population, say, in the West. And maybe 1 to 2% are going to be anywhere near what we're doing. So that's a really small audience that you're catering to. And I don't have to have a rage bait war. I can just sort of step aside and go, oh, watch. At a certain point, most of that's going to be unappealing to the rest of the people. And that 1 or 2% doesn't buy as many products. They don't have a big they don't purchase a lot of stuff. So they're not going to hold the market up. So you keep going after 1 or 2% of the customer base that way, in a strong way, and watch as your numbers. And that's exactly what started happening, right? Especially with 2024. They made changes. They did everything. And people are like, well, flop for this reason. No, I tell you right now, it's flop because it doesn't have a cool identity that makes sense. The white European thing works. Now, I'm not saying that to be mean or be racist. It is what the real world has shown us, and people want that. Now, even the Asian themed things work. They work. And they could have done that. That stuff works. It's interesting. It's what people want. Should have done that instead of trying to mix it up and trying to pretend there's something going on that isn't going on. It just doesn't. And you're only, the people that will overwhelmingly support that are a very tiny portion of your customer base. And they don't do a lot of purchasing. So 2024 proved they don't. Well, he did. He set a standard. It was on purpose. There was a whole thing to it. So most people I know say, like, I had a lot of black players. I got to be real with you. I'm not saying this to favor my case, but they always played white characters. Like, it's got to be absolutely real with people, right? They play white characters without shame. And I talked to some of them. They think it's stupid how things change. Like, they never had a problem with Lord of the Rings. When they heard about the orc thing, they thought that was stupid, right? And they even thought that the people that were, it wasn't that, it was, they thought people on my side were bad. They were insulted by people that were acting like they could compare, that somehow the orcs were compared to them. Because it's like, Steven, you're not bringing that up. I'm like, of course I'm not. They're like, they are. The people that are calling you racist, or people like yourself. Like, yep, that's who's bringing it up. So they were like, yeah, they were quite insulted by that. Again, I've game a representation, although it's stupid. I've done a lot of military game or ran for military people because I'm a military family. Not military myself, but just like civilian military, gaming with military people. And I ran the game for quite a few guys that were stuck at home in wheelchairs, and they got into this stuff, and they played able-bodied characters 100% of the time. At no point did they say, I want to play a character that's in my life situation, because we use these games to escape our own hardships. So that's how it works. We did not have any black players in Norway in the 1990s. There were not that many. We had them. It wasn't like a surplus. And it wasn't because it wasn't advertised to them. It wasn't because right now, a lot of the people you see in are in for political reasons. So I'm saying naturally, the game was never opposed to them. Nobody said they can't join. And man, back in the old school era, anybody who showed any slight bit of interest, you'd open the door to right away. Like anybody. And now, if you went to areas, here would be surprising to you. Go to areas of America. I know this from seeing home footage from a few people I game with that came to Nova Scotia. They were from the States, from California. All their players were like Mexicans and black people. So in areas where you'd find, say, Mexicans, black people, Asian players, even the States, you'd find that. And if it's all white, how were these games ever popular in Japan? I mean, you're not going to find a lot of white players in Japan playing the games, right? No, geez. Most people play the murder hobos because I don't think a standard is set too well for them, right? It's Bushido taught me something really obvious. And it wasn't like I didn't know, but it was just so clear the how it taught the idea of consequences. And I was already applying consequences. Like if you walk into a town in my game, go ahead, run around, try to kill people. Good luck. See how that works out for you. Personally, my players that get to know me would never. They'd be like, "So, do you ever murder hobo in Steven's game?" Fuck no. Fuck no. Why? Our characters would probably never get out of the place. We'd be making new characters in most cases. We would roll out a rig carpet to anyone interested in playing. Bill, same here. 100%. No one ever felt unwelcome. Women, anybody of any color, didn't matter who you were. We leave other issues at the door. Anybody showed the slightest bit of interest, you're in. And if you go to areas where there weren't white people, there were black people playing, Mexican people playing, Asian people in Japan playing the games. So if these games didn't appeal to these people, it's just the reason you want to see a lot of black people in the area, if it's mostly white people around, that's why. It wasn't because it wasn't interesting to certain people, but it's who's most of the people around an area. So if a shop opens, most of the people walking through the door is going to be these people. And it didn't mean no black people or no Asian people or no Mexicans would show up to your games. It's just that there's not a lot of them around. There's a lot fewer that are going to be into the game overall. Because even with white people, it's not like it's a giant hobby. Even if you have a vast majority of white people in an area, only a small percentage of white people are going to play these games. So if you have a big majority of white people and a small percentage comes in, well, you just have to assume that small percentage exists in each race. So if there's not a lot of black people, you're not going to see a lot of black people. But if you went to an area with a lot of black people, you'd be surprised. And this was really well known in the States, in places like California, where you'd see a lot of black players playing the game or Mexican players playing the game. And then you'd have places like Japan, like tabletop role-playing games could not become popular in these other places or had these players if they only appealed to white people. It's just that the games appeal to anyone, just like video games appealed. It's like Super Mario. It wasn't like there was a lack of other people, not just white people, that wanted to play the game. Just because you have a white character means something. That's just people making shit up in their head. It's like, sorry, dude, the reason you're not seeing many black people, it's not because we're not advertising it to them. It's just because there's not that many black people, say, around a certain area to even be interested. And even if you have a surplus of black people, just like white people, there's only a small percentage that are going to be nerds that want to play these games. Right? So in the real sense, there were any person of any color, of any race, that were nerds, never felt like I need to be represented before they want to try a tabletop role-playing game. It's great if you have players that don't know about the space station. And if you should understand that, Bill. If you read some of the material, you know what I mean, right? I had 2 black players for one game, was really good at art. So he had artistic background. The other one was gay. Role-playing went against the grain of most black people. Yeah, but that's more culture, not because they felt like, well, we're not in the commercial, so I guess we're not going to play the game. And that culture wasn't even the same. I'm in Canada. Plenty of black people actually play the game down here. Completely different culture. See, and if you look at black culture in the States, it's not all, depending on where you were. Like in California, there was a surplus of black people that played the game. Now, if you went to what we call white cracker culture from England, and it came here, that culture didn't play the game much, and black people that picked up on that same white culture that picked it up, it wasn't even their natural culture from like Africa. A lot of those people, just like white rednecks, wouldn't play the game. But if you went to black people that didn't pick up that culture in California, where there was a lot of them Mexicans, I mean, I've seen the videos. Like, it's tons of gaming of Mexicans with white people, of course, but lots of black players, lots of Mexicans. And so areas where they were and say culturally were different, they played. So it just never was an issue. I've never met a black person who said, I'm interested in tabletop role-playing games, but because they didn't put me in an ad, I didn't try. Like, I didn't see a black person in an ad, so I didn't try. Like, I've never heard that in my life. Every black person I've talked to, they're like, yeah, D&D looks awesome. I want to play it. I'm a nerd. Cool. Right? Nowadays, it's just become more popular. And you're not going to draw black people in because they're in the books now. You're going to draw more people in culturally from different walks of life when something becomes more popular to do. It's the same with the internet, has drawn more people than it ever had before because it became popular. Tabletop role-playing games become a little bit more popular, right, through Matt Mercer and stuff like that. So as things become popular, many people from many different walks of life that would normally ignore our hobby start trying it out. So if you just look into our hobby and assume, oh, this wouldn't happen, it's debunked. None of it stands. It's all fake victimhood, fake nothing. And so you don't got to be against the woke to notice that reality, right? All games, and jerk is a jerk no matter where. That's 100% what it is, right? You judge people as individuals. And that's a major part of what the West believes, right? You judge people as individuals. Tom is Tom. It doesn't matter the color of his skin. And either Tom's a decent guy or he's a fucking jerk. All right. Now, don't get it wrong. If you can't get into group think, and that does exist, and there can be some judgment there in life, right? You got to watch out for group think. It does exist, and it can take your individuality away from you. And then it's almost justified to start judging certain people within group areas. But groupthink is a dangerous thing. It's not good for you because it takes away your own individuality. To represent yourself, you start representing groupthink. And so you got to be careful of that. But back in the day in the old school, it was individuals. So when they just talk about how things work now, it was just a fake out. It was all based on lies. And I think that it's going to hold water. Like you're just going to notice things, so you don't get on one bandwagon and do rage bait and attack and put walls up between people and be tribal. It's like a monkey here. Monkey will promote games from guys that he doesn't agree with politically. I'm 100% on board with that approach because to me, I'm all about gaming. If you make a good game, I don't care. And there's a lot of old school guys that, if we want to be so picky, some of the games I've even covered recently are from guys that would not agree with a lot of us on certain things. Right? So the old school had it, the new school has it. I put that all away. I just think it's all bullshit. You shouldn't have to destroy something to pretend that you're trying to fix something that was never broken. That's my point of the whole white European thing with D&D. If you don't have an issue, you should not pretend to have one and then pretend you can fix an issue that doesn't even exist. It's like we're fixing an issue. There was no issue. There was none to fix to begin with. So that's why I see it as a waste of time. But I just think on principle right there it will stand. And that's just how the hobby is. And I really believe there's only a small percentage of people that are going to wage war over that stuff. So it's like, I think most 5e people are more sensible than we think and are more into leave it at the door and let's game together. And I believe that's true. So you don't got to become tribal and play rage bait and attack people or call people on the other side tourist. I think that's really stupid. No, I was talking about this IP thing because I did see a little bit of a stream where they talked about this, and I was so confused. Like the expectations of people that like Star Wars, they know all this stuff. I'd be like, I tell players what's up. I'm just open and honest with players before I start a game. Right? Here's what I'm doing. If I want to be exact, I'll be exact if I want to, and then I'll simply do that. But if I don't want to, if I want something more open, I look at the options. Oh, over here, all these things weren't happening. Or I'll do time jumps like Forgotten Realms. I know guys that would know Forgotten Realms really well. Be like, okay, 500 years went by. Oh. So now all the material that you read means nothing. Oh. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to do what I want to do. And I'd just be upfront with players. And if they say, well, I have an issue with that. Well, you don't get a game. Really fucking simple. And I don't know, as a public game master, I just felt like, these games unite people, even with differences. Always have, Bill. Always have. And we should praise what the hobby is, in my opinion. Not call the old school bigotry. No, the old school was ahead of its time. So when there were other issues going on with people not coming together on something, at that time, the hobby was complete opposite. We came together on things. Right. So I would even say for many areas of life, we were way ahead of the game. And instead of being praised for that, we get lies told about the old school being nothing but based on bigotry. It's all lies, nothing true about it at all. We were ahead and we should be praised for being ahead. But when you got to pretend there's an issue that doesn't exist, so then you can pretend to be a hero, like as if you're coming in to save people from something that wasn't real, this is what happens. And that's what a lot of these, the approach with WotC was doing with their activist, right, with the company. They were pretending, so they have to create a problem that doesn't exist, have to create. It's like the orc thing, comparing orcs to a certain race. Nobody was doing that. So to even bother bringing that up, that's creating an issue that doesn't exist and then pretending that you can be the hero that comes in and saves the day. Pretending we need representation when we don't, because it's already covered. Representation of Arabs and Black people are already in tabletop role-playing games. Asian people, there's whole settings dedicated to them, right? All dedicated to them. Not just a little bit, all overly dedicated to them. All kinds of stuff dedicated to them. World of Darkness was a hit in this area way, way back in the old school. So stuff dedicated to them. You have to pretend all that wasn't real. And then you have to paint a false picture of the old school. Say it was based on bigotry because you take a comment from Gary Gygax that seems a little off. Now look, a lot of guys felt the games were made for men. And if you talk to a lot of designers, I would say they made the game with assuming the majority of people that would play the game were going to be guys. Okay. It's all that happens. Like, nobody's offended that war games were mostly made for guys. And nothing stopped any woman from ever entering the hobby. It's not like we needed them to make dolls that were for men. You know what I mean? It's like, and if there is going to be female customers, you're not going to act like the past is bad. You just adjust. Yeah, you adjust your marketing, but you don't have to call the past bigotry based on it. And you don't have to pretend the past is something it's not. It's just, my only argument, I put out one video just saying, I don't ever even think the designers made it for men in mind, because when you talk to designers or the interviews in the old school, I've done a lot of research on this. Here's how they would describe people: nerds, hobbyists. And so very few times do they actually say just men. And when I look at it from that point of view, I think, well, that does cover women, right? Because they would mostly say nerds and hobbyists, and they're female nerds, right? And it's acknowledged that female players are already playing. And the only thing with nerds is, men or not, nerds are very unsympathetic. They don't put anything in there to be bigots. Like, you'd be like in D&D, they had a difference between men and women. I'm like, well, if you think that's bigotry, you don't understand what a nerd is. Like, why? I'm like, nerds just believe in being like the realistic simulation of real. They're like, huh? I'm like, if there's a difference between men and women, nerds will apply that to their stats or to a game, not because they hate women, but because they're simulating reality. But that's real. That's, if you understand nerds, that's real. If you falsely paint that as bigotry, it means you don't know what a nerd is. You have no clue. Most times girls join, even my girlfriend at the time, it failed. Most times, yeah, a lot of women aren't going to be into the gaming. It's definitely it's not appealing on a certain end, but there were games, if you go back in time, back in the old school, like I mentioned it, there was a Heart Quest. I actually seen that ran a lot, and that was mostly women. They loved it. So women loved Call of Cthulhu. A lot of women players. I mean, Call of Cthulhu, geez, even back when it first came out, half the table, if not more, would be women. And they'd stay and play. D&D with a more combative aim, or say certain people the way they play or run D&D, would be a lot less appealing to a lot of female nerds. Doesn't mean no female nerds were into it, but a lot less would be into that style. But Castle Falkenstein, which I ran, the majority of my players were women for Castle Falkenstein. So it's not like the games are only made for men. They're made for nerds. And I made a video. A lot of guys got mad at me for pointing this out because I was like, well, go back and listen to the interviews. I did the research. They don't always say men. Most of the time, the designers say nerds or hobbyists. I'm like, that does not assume that women can't be these things, right? About marketing, who would buy it at that time? Now you're assuming it's Bill. That's exactly it. We're experimenting with a hobby at the time. We're like, think about it. You're coming out of wargaming. You promoted wargaming, and the most people that show up for wargaming are guys. And if you think your hobby is related to that, what are you going to think? Most of the time, most of the customers might be men. But regardless, early 80s, they figured out women were playing too. So then what happens, Bill, if you pay attention to a lot of games that come out? They start leaning towards women. Like, not all, but some, like Castle Wolfenstein. The Call of Cthulhu was a huge, huge success with female nerds. Huge. She did not have any imagination. I had to admit, I did not get with her because of her brain. Yeah, but some do. Some have it. Actually, depends. Like, again, I did the Castle Wolfenstein Call of Cthulhu. Some of the best players I've ever ran the game for were women for those games. They had great imaginations. It just had, the thing had to be appealing to them. And then you find out, oh, they're just as good as the guys. And actually, I ran for a lot of women for D&D. I'll just be real with you guys, because I did public gaming. I never just stuck to one group of friends or was isolated, right? So I ran D&D for a lot of women that were just as on it as men. I'm not saying that to defend them. Bunnies and Burrows, if you go back in time, Bill, and do your research, you'll find out a lot of women played that game. I'm being dead serious with you, too. They like the story, and you know what the game is based on. Disney did the movie, but you know what it's based on, and it was really appealing. So a lot of women actually played Bunnies and Burrows. Playing the animals that can speak with intelligence, they actually appeals to them. That's a real thing. So, like, that's absolutely not joking with you. So I just heard a lot of these bro OSR people on there that don't know anything about our history that make stuff up. I hate to pick on those guys. I don't know if many of you heard about them, bro OSR. I busted them for about a year and a half. They argued that AD&D 1E was based on wargaming, even though wargaming is where D&D comes from. I had to straighten it out. I had to show them the facts, and they're still up. So if they ever want to argue, I'll just put it back in their faces that won't be happy with it. At first, they were like, "It's wargaming. It's wargaming." I'm serious for like a year and a half. I put up my videos, and then the same guys that were saying it was wargaming goes, "Man, I wish I didn't walk away from wargaming." It's like they got busted, and they went from it is wargaming to, "Man, I wish I didn't walk away from work." Like all of a sudden, completely acknowledged they were wrong. They were. The Raw thing. Raw was for tournament play, and tournament 1-to-1 timing. They said this is really how TSR and Gary meant it to be, the way they push it. Then I did a video about the facts, which proves TSR and Gary were doing something completely different with it. And they were just completely wrong. And they went from it is the way to like, okay, we do it a little bit different. I busted them on things that were going on for over a year, but I mean, I absolutely creamed them. So I think young women today are more interested in the 90s culture, have normalized nerd culture. Yep. Surrounded by ladies rolling dice, that would bring food. Oh my God, it was great. Yeah, same Bill. I had my periods of time where I had lots of the Castle Wolfenstein, Call of Cthulhu. And so if you go back in the interviews in the early 70s, they talk about it being for men. That's a few interviews. By 1980, Gary and them are playing with women in the group. And you right away, and it doesn't mean all interviews and talk was just men in the 70s. It was mostly stating nerds and hobbyists. When you get to the interviews in the 80s, they start just saying pretty much nerds and hobbyists. And there is like a statement from Gary where it's like mostly about men, but then he backtracks, which he does in a lot of his statements because it was all experimenting and not knowing what was appealing, what you should say, how you should sell the game, who's going to buy more products, right? You keep thinking this is your base. And the truth is, most people that purchased the games were men. That's the big issue for the companies. So you can get lots of females playing, but the majority of the products were paid for by guys. That is the truth. And that's Gary acknowledged it. Other designers acknowledged it. The companies acknowledged it. The majority of purchasing products for gaming was done by men. So it wasn't that there wasn't a surplus of women playing the games or interested in them, like in Call of Cthulhu or Castle Falkenstein. It's just when you look at the purchasing behind the products, it was like 99.9% men. That's the absolute truth. That's even WotC marketing acknowledged that. Even Wizards of the Coast acknowledged that part. The majority of purchasing was men. Even when they started, it was mostly men. Period. So it wasn't that there wasn't a surplus of women in the hobby, and it was acknowledged. It's just you get this whole thing. Anyway, I was to get back to that panelist because I'm almost time to start covering the game. But they were talking about purist Star Trek and Star Wars stuff. And again, it was such a small number of people that would be purists. I barely ever ran into the issue. And when I would run into the issue, I don't know, communication with people up front covers your ass. Like, first off, I'm going to run a good game. So if you tried to pick, and I was very picky, my players knew it, or purists that would come to my table would know right away. Yeah, we can be purists, but that's Steven. Shit, if we fuck the flow of his game up arguing with him, he'll kick us off the table. Oh, yes, I fucking will. So, and when you know that about me, you don't feel as privileged to sit there and think you can break in or not taking the game serious. Like I put up an enemy in front of you because my gaming is, I expect you to take it serious. We're going to act like idiots towards this enemy. Whose game are you playing? Like, I'll fucking go watch grass grow right now. I'll kick you all up. Because I'll fucking go watch grass grow before I run a fucking have a terrible experience for an entire group of people. Now, I don't just carelessly kick people out of my game. I have a system for that, and I'm very sweet about it. But players know this about me. I'll watch grass grow before I'll have a bad experience. So, and they know I'll stick to that. So you don't get to sit there and play that game. And I'm a good game master. I can back it up. And people like the game. Even the people that would be under those conditions, they know I'm strict for that reason. I'm not going to put up with shit. That's just how it's going to be. One of the players studied to be a cook. Food was great. Oh, yeah, I hear that. I've kicked a few and left a few. Just want everyone at our table to have fun. Here's how I do it, Bill. I first understand that every player is going to watch me like a hawk when I deal with another player with bad behavior. So I have a rule. I've always done this. You do something I don't like and I'm unhappy with it and it can't continue. I'll say to the other players, all right, we're going to have a talk with this player and I'm going to give him a heads up. And it's going to give a warning. I'm going to tell that guy, I'm going to give you an opportunity to change this, but that can't keep going forward. If you keep doing it, I'll ask you to leave the game. Not ask you, you'll be getting out of the game. Right? So I'll give you an opportunity. If you want to change that, you can stay in. Then my players would see me, or at least acknowledge, because I'd make sure they would, that an opportunity is given to a problem player. Okay. Now, very few times in life have players crossed the line so badly that even the other players asked me to kick somebody out. It has happened, and I went along with it. Like, if it was that bad, that just made sense to me too. But I know the other players might not read the situation like I do. And so they're wondering, like, I got to be careful because the way I treat that player, I could lose their trust. Because they think if I'll treat that player that way, what if there's a misunderstanding and I'll treat them that way? So by making sure I have the warning talk and give an opportunity to come back without just kicking out, the other players know I just won't abuse the process. And I make sure they know that. So if there's a misunderstanding, we can have a talk. If something can't continue, I'll give them the heads up instead of kicking them out of the game. And I'll do it as reasonable as I can. Now, it's like that once they know a player has gotten the warning and the player continues the bad behavior, I've never lost trust after that point by kicking a player out. Okay, dude, you won't stop. I've given you opportunities. You're out of the game. And the other players know I'm not just going to abuse people at the table. And so that's my way of meeting people in the middle, right? And I've always recognized that the other players are watching me like a hawk because the way I treat that player might be the way I treat them. I know that too. I know that mentally. Like I understand it deep down inside my mind how the other players are looking at it. So they want to make sure that I'm given opportunities. I'm not just flashing up anger and kicking people out. Very important. Very few times though, people cross the line so bad where it's maybe even telling other players to go fuck yourself, all this type of action. And on the spot, I have went, okay, guys, I'm getting rid of him. Yeah, we're good with that. Okay, goodbye, dude. You're off the table. See ya. That's it. And I just like my players know. That's why I never give advice. People ask me how do I handle bad players at the table. Well, I'm like I don't. I give them warnings. They have to leave, and they don't get to stay. That's it. I just don't have advice for how to manage games with bad players because I don't keep them. Either you straighten up and play right, or you go. Right? And maybe I've been spoiled because I've always had players to replace players. I did a few home games, but my home games that were with friends and stuff like that, they would know the deal. I never had friends fuck around because they just knew they knew me too well. If my friends ever entered a game, they would tell you, Steven would make an example out of us. Like I would be more hard on them than the stranger. So they knew that, right? Well, if you get lucky, philo, and you get good behavior, fine. But what's even good behavior? It's like, okay, I put a character in front of you, and you're going to play this like you're playing a video game, or you're going to half-ass in your, you're not going to role play right, and half-ass in your reaction to somebody. I don't care how well behaved you are. That's bad behavior as a player. So either take the game serious or kiss my ass because I'd have more fun watching grass grow than going through that. Right? So I don't want to go through players controlling that. And it's not just an individual game. So it's like I make sure players know the game is not all about one person. And if you meet up with someone who I want you to play your characters, like, look, if an evil guy comes down and he's, say he was like a famous evil guy, you're like, well, fuck you, I won't listen. What are you playing? Are you playing on Steam or are you playing a PlayStation? What do you think you're in? Why are you bringing this modern day mindset to the situation? Or why you're playing your characters like they're you? Yeah, I'm not in the mood for that. Right? Either you play the character real who they are, like your character meeting up with that person, your character wouldn't feel that way. But you, Tom, who's safe at the table here, who doesn't have to meet that guy in real life, you, Tom, feel secure. So Tom is telling him to go fuck himself. But your character wouldn't just do that. So can you play your character and not play Tom sitting at the table here? Because the character isn't named Tom. And he's not safely at a table right now being able to tell whoever to fuck off. All right? We're role playing. If you want to go play a board game, go play Monopoly. We're playing chess. If you want to go play checkers, find another game master. I'm sure there's plenty of game masters out there that like to run checkers for you. I run chess. So either you bring up the quality of your fucking play, because I don't play on top of a molehill. I play at the top of the mountain. Right? So either you get up to the top of the mountain, but don't expect me to come down to the top of the molehill to play the game with you. So either you pick up your fucking quality, or you go find that game master that will run the game for you at the top of the molehill. Not me. So I've always had a standard. This is going to be my last one. After this, I'll start Metamorphosis Alpha. I don't run games at the top of a molehill. Now, maybe I've been spoiled because even if you got cocky with me and left my game, I could replace you. Like breathing air. Lucky. I've had that accessible to me for decades. So I have people the waiting wings right now. I got 2 groups on the go. And if one player left one of the groups, I have other players that want to join right away. I just can't run for that many people at once. So I've always had people wanting to play the game because they liked my game. They know I don't mistreat people. I do everything you would want as a player if you take the game serious. But they also know I have a standard where it's like, I don't run checkers and I don't run a game at the top of a fucking molehill. Right? So here's me, and I'm going to be at the top of the mountain. So you can either join me there or you go find somebody else. That's how it works. I remember hearing when I first got online, players would be picky. That's what I heard. Like it was like the idea of a game master being picky was so foreign to them. And when they finally ran to me on, I remember Open RPG, I'd have 50 people in the room, join my room trying to join the game. And people couldn't believe just how picky I was. Like, Steven, you're really picky. I'm like, yeah, by the time I get to a group, my first group on Open RPG, we did a 1.5-year campaign. Some of the best players you'd ever meet in your life. And if I wasn't picky, I would have been running a checkers game that was a shitty experience for a short time at the top of a molehill. Because I was picky, I had the top fucking notch players playing for 1.5 years in an amazing campaign. So, to me, and I'm spoiled. Here's what happened to me: is I had to quit playing after the first 10 years because I came into the hobby in 1987, going into before 1991, and my game master or the DM was probably the best guy I've ever met running games in my life, and he did manipulation stuff in the military, helped to regime change in different places. I won't say names, right? But just he was fucking amazing. Right? He was so good that after I left his game, I could not find another guy who could run the game like him. I spent 10 years trying. Right? 10 years. 10 years, I give 110% every game I sat at. Just couldn't find the guy. So after 10 years of trying, I just went, I'm not a forever game master. I'm just a dedicated game master because to this day, I have games that will be offered to me online and in person to play. And I just say no. Like all the time. It's sort of weird too, because I hear so many people have a hard time finding a game to play, where I don't have a hard time finding a game to play. It's the amount of games I have to just say no to on a pretty consistent basis. Like all the time. Because I'm offering games all the time. I'm not trying to brag about that, just I am. I just say no all the time because I'm just like, no, just not interested. I'm a dedicated game master, that's it. And I'm very picky about who I'll run the game for. Because I'd rather watch grass grow than run the game at the top of a molehill running a checkers game. That's why when I ran 5e last year for a short bit, for a few sessions, I even said afterwards, I'm not attacking people that like 5e, but I was like, that's one of the worst experiences I've ever had in my entire fucking life of gaming. And I ran the game well. I ran 5e as you should. It was one of the worst experiences I've ever had. And I said afterwards, I even told the guys, I said, the chance that you ever, like slightly, I thought about doing it too. I talked about even maybe doing a few more sessions with them because they kept bugging, but I was like, the chance that, like, at a certain point, I was like, the chance that you'll ever get me to do something like that again, that low ball. Like, I'll never lower myself to that again. Like, I play up here. Like, I run the game up here. So I'll never, ever, like 5e, the way it was down here. So I'm like, I don't do that. I don't do that, dude. It's not my gimmick. I'm very high quality. He passed away. That's why he stopped running games. First, he aged out, and he left. If it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have started. I wouldn't have had a bunch of material when he passed away that he left to his sons. But his sons called me over and gave me his stuff, most of his stuff. Stephen, because they felt like I was like he was a mentor to me, and they said, "Look, we like gaming, but we were never going to game master and do what," because he taught me how to do everything. So when he passed away, they gave me his books. Right there, you go. So regime change back in the day. He was a Canadian military, and his specialty was manipulation. I don't want to say names because I don't need people knowing that much about me. We'll leave it at that. But he liked, he was a nerd too. On top of doing that, he was a big nerd. He got into D&D, and they called him sort of like the Gary Gygax of where I was at the time. He sort of came up with concepts for it. Well over, I appreciate that. But yeah, that's why when I lost him, I'd already started DMing and then trying to find DMs that might be able to run the game like he could. Never did. He was a guy who could improvise gaming like breathing air. You would never know. He could think in so quickly, so in many advanced ways that he could just say, "You want to play?" and have nothing. And you'd say yes. And if you sat down with him for a session, you'd play for 8 hours and there'd be no way to tell that he was improvising. And he'd let you do whatever you wanted to do. And when I say freedom, absolute freedom. And I was addicted to it because I was an active player. Like, you have to worry about me sitting at an inn not doing anything. I was ready to go. And he could go. So I could go. He could go. And we'd sit down with him sometimes when he wasn't prepared, and we'd fucking go, man. And there was no way to tell. Like, it was like every night I played with him when I knew he did that, it blew my mind because it's like he knew what we were going to do before we did it. And there was no way he could. But he did. Right? And he taught me a lot about game mastering and manipulation. That's part of game mastering is manipulation. And not in a bad way. It's you're manipulating with information. And it's a social contract between you and the players. Players are agreeing to let you manipulate them with all this stuff. So that's how it goes. It's manipulation. And he was a specialist at it, so he was really good at it. But he could sit there and run the game like breathing air. Breathing air. And there'd never be a moment where you would know, unless he tells you he was improvising, there'd be no way to know. You would think, and you'd be freely doing whatever you want, going, it's like he knows we're going to go over here and do this. He didn't know that before it started, trust me. By the time you run into something, you'd swear he had it planned. There'd be no way you'd have it just, there's no way. I mean, so many details to what's happening here. Like, and he pieced together the session would be like, this happens over here, because like, but his mind could do that. His mind was amazing. Right? But that hurt me to a degree as a player, improved me as a game master, but it hurt me as a player because I got spoiled. Imagine having a guy like that run a game for you, and then realizing every guy you're going to meet after that is not going to touch it. And that's when you get spoiled. You end up, you're gaming at the top of the mountain, and most of the guys after that are going to be halfway up, if not at the top of the molehill. And so you're going to get nothing but mediocre after that compared to him. And it will just, and you'll feel, and I felt it too. Like, I played so much with him up here that it would just be so disappointing. And it was like 10 years after he past that I kept trying to play after him, and I feel it all the time. And I wasn't trying to brag to other game masters. I would never screw them up. I'd always help game masters, so I never ever tripped game masters up ever. Always did my best to help game masters, and I did a pretty good job. But I knew I could run circles around all the guys that were running games, and as a player, because I had become used to playing in a guy's game where there was no chance I could run circles around him, but I could just about get there. And if he's this far up, and I can just about compete with him, and 100% of the guys are all down here after him. Like, I felt it. I felt the lower quality. And it just never left me for like 10 years. I just never found another guy that could run it up here. So the only thing I could do was become the game master that I would want to have run the game for me. That's it. That's all. That's all I could do. So the only way I get to enjoy tabletop, or the only way I can enjoy tabletop role-playing games, is to run the game up here. And I enjoy running the game. I enjoy it. I love being a game master. So that's how I enjoy the hobby. But I can't enjoy the hobby as a player. But unlike other game masters that game for a long time without being a player, I'm good at keeping myself in check on my own player experience and making sure I don't forget that over the decades. That's why I give warnings. I watch how I kick people out. I do all that, acknowledging the experience of the people playing the game. And that's why I've never had people cry about character death, or I've just never had the issues I hear other people have. Communication up front, so people know how I am, and know what they're getting to a game. I'm very just clear on communication. So clearly communicate what you're doing with players, even if, say, they're a purist, say on Star Trek or Star Wars, and they either say yes or no. And if they say yes, you're in, you go. That's it. And if they're a purist, and I'm not offering that, well, they don't get to play that game. No maybes, no arguing, no debating. Solves the issue. That's it. It doesn't mean I throw all details out, but to me, there's always a common sense way of applying everything. So if I ran Star Trek and you played Star Trek, you wouldn't feel like I'm cheating what Star Trek is. I guarantee that. When I ran Star Wars, because I get in the gray zone, you would never feel like I'm cheating what Star Wars is. Right? So even if I didn't do exactly what, say, this area over here did, or what the movie did with this, I would never do anything that would seem out of hand or off-putting. And what I understand how to do is to create an experience. So if I want something to feel like Star Trek, I can make it feel like Star Trek. For real. If I want something to feel like Star Wars, trust me, you'll feel Star Wars. And I can make that happen. So it's all there is to it when it comes down to the end of the day, right? I know how to create the feeling, the experience. And that's something even guys that would try to run Star Trek games or Star Wars games, and with the exact stuff they fail to do, many guys I watch fail to do it, I could take it to a gray zone and still make Star Wars feel like Star Wars. So I haven't even watched the fucking movies, and the big Star Wars fans that played my game in Star Wars felt like I ran Star Wars. All I had to do was skim some of the movie stuff, get the idea of what it was, and then read what the designer wanted, done with the game. Okay, I can make that happen. I mean, I didn't have to watch an entire movie to understand lightsabers and all this. So I could take in the basics without needing to watch the movies in full, skim, get an idea, talk to the guys before I even think about running it, take all that information in, and then at the end, I have Star Wars fans, super Star Wars fans going, man, that felt like Star Wars. Cool. All right, guys. I think it's going to be really good. Bill knows how good this is going to be. He's read through some of this. And if you've only skimmed some of the writing, I'll hit as many good notes as I can here. Metamorphosis Alpha 1976 influences and birth of the game. A very different kind of science fiction RPG. When people think of early role-playing games, they imagine fantasy worlds, medieval kingdoms, dungeons, magic. Metamorphosis Alpha took a completely different direction. Released in 1976, it became one of the earliest science fiction role-playing games and one of the earliest RPGs to explore post-apocalyptic themes. Yeah. Labor, liberal, whatever you want to call them. Pretty much World Economic Forum, just put it that way. And we'll leave it at that. I don't want to get too far into that scheme. Okay. We could talk that on the movie entertainment channel. That these topics become way more open for me. Right. So, earliest RPGs to explore post-apocalyptic themes. Yet its greatest twist was that the world was actually a gigantic starship. Players explored strange environments, encountered mutated creatures, discovered lost technology, and slowly uncovered the truth about their surroundings. This idea would become one of the most influential concepts in early science fantasy gaming. Think of it like a conspiracy game, but not like our real world conspiracy, but it's a sort of conspiracy world type of thing for the characters, like a fantasy conspiracy, but in that zone of where are we? We don't even know. The early D&D explosion. The success of Dungeons & Dragons created a new question for game designers. Could role-playing games work outside of fantasy? Many early designers believed the answer was yes. There is the Pedal Throne, but that was a very weird type of science fiction approach. This one's a little different, post-apocalyptic. As players experimented with new genres, TSR began exploring possibilities beyond sword and sorcery. Metamorphosis Alpha emerged from this period of experimentation. Rather than copying fantasy tropes, it attempted to bring science fiction, mutation, and exploration into the new role-playing game format, or role-playing format. James M. Ward, many of you have heard about him. The driving force behind Metamorphosis Alpha was James M. Ward. Ward was already deeply involved in the early gaming hobby and part of the creative environment surrounding TSR during the formative years of role-playing games. He wanted to create a game that captured the excitement of exploration while replacing fantasy monsters and treasure with mutants, robots, ancient technology, strange environments, scientific mysteries. Many of the ideas he introduced would later reappear in his most famous follow-up game, Gamma World. Yes, and I'll mention it again at one point, but this is the game that inspires the creation of Gamma World. The science fiction paperback boom. Metamorphosis Alpha emerged during a period when science fiction paperbacks were filled with stories about mutants, lost technology, distant futures, isolated societies, strange civilizations, humanity adapting to extreme conditions. Readers of science fiction in the 1950s, 60s, and 70s were already familiar with these ideas. Metamorphosis Alpha became one of the first RPGs to transform those concepts into a playable campaign. Science fiction influences. The game drew heavily from recurring science fiction themes of the mid-20th century. These included generation ships, lost knowledge, human mutation, ancient technologies, isolated societies, degenerated civilizations. One of the game's central ideas is this. People are surrounded by advanced technology but no longer understand how it works. Characters might discover a laser pistol and view it as a mystery relic rather than a technological device. This tension between advanced technology and forgotten knowledge became one of the setting's defining themes. The generation ship concept. Perhaps the single most important influence was the generation ship. Science fiction authors had long explored the idea of enormous starships traveling for centuries between stars. Over time, later generations might forget their missions, their destination, their history, the true nature of the ship itself. Metamorphosis Alpha transformed this concept into the foundation of an RPG campaign. The result was one of the hobby's most memorable settings, the Starship Warden. So I'll go more into it at one point, but the basic idea is it's a starship that has been traveling for so long, for literally generations, people born in it. Like it's become a living world over time. And ideas for God, why it exists, the people who first put the ship out there, maybe passed on, did, hiding, who knows. Technology replaces treasure. One of the game's most important innovations was how it treated technology. In early fantasy RPGs, players searched for gold, magic swords, enchanted items, hidden treasures. Metamorphosis Alpha replaced much of that with advanced technology. Players explored dangerous areas looking for laser weapons, medical devices, computers, protective equipment, ancient technological artifacts. The catch was that they often had little understanding of what they had discovered. Learning how a device worked could be just as valuable as finding it in the first place. Bringing science fantasy into early RPGs. Science fantasy existed long before Metamorphosis Alpha. Stories such as planetary romances, far future adventures had already blended science fiction with fantasy concepts. What Metamorphosis Alpha did was help bring those ideas into the early RPG hobby at a time when most role playing games were still strongly associated with fantasy adventure. The game freely combined laser weapons, mutations, psychic abilities, robots, strange creatures, forgotten technology. The result was a style of play that would become highly influential in later science fantasy and post apocalyptic RPGs. The influence of exploration gaming. Although the setting was science fiction, many of the game's play assumptions came directly from early D&D. Players were expected to explore unknown areas, manage risk, recover useful items, survive dangerous encounters, learn about the world through play, not lore dumps, learning it like as if their characters have no idea what they walked into, right? In many ways, the Starship Warden functions as a science fiction equivalent of the early mega dungeon. Different sections of the ship contain unique dangers, isolated communities, factions, strange creatures, valuable discoveries. The structure felt familiar to early role players, even though the environment was radically different. Birth of the Starship Warden. The game's greatest innovation was not mutations or technology, it was the setting itself. The Starship Warden is an enormous colony ship carrying thousands of people on a long interstellar journey. After catastrophic failures and generations of decline, knowledge is lost. Civilization fragments, basically breaks up, right? Mutations spread. Robots continue operating ancient systems. Entire societies develop within isolated sections of the vessel. Most inhabitants no longer understand where they are. This single idea gave Metamorphosis Alpha an identity unlike almost any other RPG of its era. I never watched it, but I do know what you're talking about, and you're absolutely right, Bill. And if you watched it, this on top of reading, because I know you read some of this, I know how much this is hitting it out of the park. The Road to Gamma World. Metamorphosis Alpha influence extends beyond its own publication. In 1978, James Ward would design Gamma World. Many concepts from Metamorphosis Alpha reappeared there. Mutations, ancient technology, exploration, survival, strange creatures, lost knowledge. The difference was that Gamma World moved the action from a damaged ship to a ruined Earth. Because of this, many fans view Gamma World as a spiritual successor to Metamorphosis Alpha. It might seem like a little backwards that I'm doing this. I did Gamma World, then I'm doing this, but they are different enough that I didn't worry about that, right? Putting them in order. And I purposely I didn't do games in the exact order. I've been randomly doing some old school games. So you notice I do some 80s, but here I am back in the 70s again, right? This is because I chose to mix it up instead of just doing a perfect order of timeline, right? I do themes, concepts, ideas, stuff like this, right? Why the game matters. Metamorphosis Alpha occupies a unique place in RPG history. It was one of the earliest science fiction RPGs, one of the earliest mutation focused RPGs, one of the earliest post apocalyptic RPGs, the direct predecessor to Gamma World, home to one of the hobbyist's most memorable settings. Most importantly, it demonstrated that role playing games could successfully move beyond fantasy and explore entirely different genres. The genius of Metamorphosis Alpha lies in a deceptively simple idea. The dungeon is a starship, and nobody remembers it as a starship. From the single concept, James Ward created one of the most influential science fiction RPGs of the 1970s, helped establish many of the ideas that would later define Gamma World, and showed that role-playing games could be far more than fantasy adventures in medieval worlds. I mean, think about it, it's just 2 years after D&D. And you got to understand when I say, why am I saying this is historical? Before I move on to how to run and play or something, you know I will. Let me have one more of these. But why is this such a big issue, guys? Like, why am I saying it's historical? Like, am I just saying it because it sounds good? No. Here's why I'm saying it's real. Real on this stuff. I'm not just overselling this. You got to think back to the timeline. This is a new hobby. Nobody knows the market. There's no market study. There's no bunch of previous games to know what will sell and what will flop. You invest time into making a new game. You put it out there. Are you going nowhere? And then look at like a guy like James Ward. Now, he's famous and worked on a lot of stuff, but would he have kept getting projects if he's putting out failures? Like, there's so many things like this prove. Though I would say the Pedal Throne game, Empire of the Pedal Throne, that definitely gives some groundwork for a game like this, right? Because TSR was willing to go after something that had some similar. The Pedal Throne was so influential that I say it inspires some of what you see here, and even games like Bushido. And Bushido is like the Pedal Throne in the social aspect, right? But ancient technologies, alien stuff, that stuff is already there. People forget that, though. But as far as emphasizing it better overall, I think as a game, this works. The Pedal Throne wasn't that well liked, and it was a really hard game to play. I enjoyed it myself. That's what I find weird. Though the Pedal Throne game is one of the only games I know where nerds, even the ones that weren't into it, respect the game because of the creativity. The creativity is so off the scale on that one that I've never heard a nerd say it sucks. And there's an acknowledgement that old game inspires a ton of games going forward and gives a hint that it's worth trying other things. I definitely think that more opened the door for Metamorphosis Alpha, but Metamorphosis Alpha then has to establish that it works, right? Because Pedal Throne wasn't the biggest seller in the world. So you need a game that's going to, like, that one was like a neat idea that was sort of iffy for TSR. This needed to work. Right? And not just be a good idea. It needed to work on a pretty big scale, and it did. And I think it did. It worked so well that we get Gamma World from it. It at least worked well enough that TSR said, okay, it plays. They sold enough of it, and they were willing to let this continue and go down this road. And you got to remember, games like this open the door for a lot of other genres. You probably wouldn't easily get Top Secret or Gangbusters or stuff like that following if it wasn't for a game like this. It says you don't just need medieval fantasy. You don't just need Token. right? So the importance of this to open up the market for TSR is vital. And even though modules replace the work that they'll do, like one thing I don't mind modules, but the one thing pissed me off is when modules came around, TSR stopped making as many games. Modules and settings became money, and it was less about making games. And but early, before the modules was a thing, games. So basically, this is how they were trying to make money as a company before the module gimmick became a big thing for them, right? They'd make the Top Secret, they'd make this, they'd make Gamma World, right? But yeah. I mean, people sort of knew it could be done, but you had to just see, regardless of knowing it could be done, would the audience they have that is already playing D&D and purchasing the game, would they want to play this? Right? And do you know? You can assume it, but you don't have a history to know. That's what makes this historical. Because you don't have a history to go, I know for sure this works. You can assume it. And TSR obviously assumed some things and took a shot, but without the shot taking, you get nothing. Personally, again, I love this game, and I'm going to go more into, like, trust me, the how to run it and character creation stuff is definitely going to put some meat on this bone you're going to like. I do have a settings section for the Starship overall, so we'll go way more into detail on that. Now, I do have a worth mentioning area with some notes that if I feel like there's more I need to say about it, I get a few things there, right? Possibly to bring up. We'll see. Some of the stuff is mentioned here, but if I feel like we need to talk about it a bit more, we'll do that, right? That's the plan. But there, I'm ready to go. Hope you guys are too. Okay. How to run Metamorphosis Alpha 1976. First rule, the ship is the main character. Many RPGs focus on kingdoms, cities, or wilderness regions. In Metamorphosis Alpha, the most important element of the campaign is the Starship Warden itself. The ship is not simply a backdrop, it is the mystery. It is the dungeon. It is the setting. It is often the greatest threat. As the GM, always remember that every section of the ship should feel like a piece of a much larger puzzle. Players should gradually discover clues that reveal the true nature of their world. So this is definitely where you don't do a lore dump. And if you've gotten used to the idea of people slowly discovering lore as they go further, and you're used to putting stuff, it can help when you go to run this, right? But what you want to do is just so much of the secrets are going to be on each level. And the idea is for players to go up to each level and explore them and find out more about what this ship is. The characters are not space explorers. One of the easiest mistakes a modern GM can make is treating the characters like trained science fiction heroes. Most inhabitants of the Starship Warden are not scientists, engineers, starship officers, space explorers. They are descendants of people who have forgotten much of their history. Most do not understand advanced technology. So understand, ignorance almost becomes your friend here. And you don't have to assume your characters or the characters will be these type of people that will just know everything. Many do not understand what the ship actually is. The campaign often becomes more interesting when characters begin ignorant and gradually uncover truth through exploration. Discovery is part of the adventure. Very important part of the adventure for this game. Preserve the sense of discovery. The game works best when players do not immediately understand everything around them. Part of the excitement comes from the exploration and discovery. Characters may encounter strange devices, ancient computers, automated systems, mutated creatures, forgotten sections of the ship. Resist the urge to explain everything immediately. Like I said, not everything at once. Allow players to experiment, investigate, slowly piece together the truth. The more mysteries they solve themselves, the more memorable the campaign becomes. Because remember, it's about their experience, not just you wanting to tell them everything. And it's you let that happen, right? It's just a core piece of the adventure. And there's not like 50 campaigns to do with this game. This is it, right? This is it. It's not like D&D. You don't need 50 runs with Metamorphosis Alpha. One good run does it, and you can move on. Just saying you could. I ran it for multiple groups, and I've only ran it for one group twice, and that's because one group didn't complete the whole thing and then tried again. Technology should feel mysterious. So when they say long campaigns for every game, possible, but not always, right? This one, I think, is you can get 100 sessions out of it and maybe play it over 1 year. So, I mean, if you count that as a really long campaign, that's pretty long. It's like a one run, right? Especially if they figure out the entire thing. Technology should feel mysterious. One of the defining features of Metamorphosis Alpha is that advanced technology is often poorly understood. It doesn't mean, I just want to be clear on this, it doesn't mean you couldn't bring a group in that already knows it, that will go at it differently each time, right? But my advice would be, even though you can do different things with it, if you have a group that's already discovered most of it, ran through it once, change some of the stuff on purpose. That's advice. I did that. A laser rifle is not simply equipment. So here, I'll tell you this again. Technology should feel mysterious. One of the defining features of Metamorphosis Alpha is that advanced technology is often poorly understood by the characters. A laser rifle is not simply equipment. It is a relic from a forgotten age. A computer terminal is not merely a machine. It may be viewed as something almost magical. Avoid presenting technology as ordinary. The less familiar it feels, the more valuable and exciting it becomes. Meaning, when don't verbalize it like it's just a piece. Like, just don't say, it's like a laser rifle. Like, describe it, not like you tell them how it looks, but when you're giving them a description of it, your description should almost describe it like something like, okay, you guys are looking at this odd object, right? And you give some description to it, and you're like, oh, and they might even piece together as like a person in their mind, like, that's like a rifle? Is it? You show them an image, they'd be like, yeah, like, but you as a game master, do not speak of it in that plane of terms, because you want them to think of it as something weird. Because their characters just say, oh yeah, you might get it, but your character doesn't understand that. Sounds like Shadow World, the world setting from ice for the game Rollmaster. Something in that. There you go, Philo. I'm not surprised you said that, my friend. And yes, you're definitely has a lot of relation in that way. It may be viewed as something almost magical. Like I said, avoid presenting technology as ordinary. The less familiar it feels, the more valuable and exciting it becomes. So even if players can put it together in their head, don't just introduce it in this verbal way like it's plain Jane, right? And so they can understand that's how their characters are taking it in. Trust me, that will help the player's mind. That will be the seed you want to plant for them to go, yeah, and then they'll react to it like it's odd with their characters instead of reacting to it like it's a rifle. And then they have fun, right? Just, even though it could be obvious, just trust me, it's a setup for it to make it easier for them to role play and even feel like, yeah, okay, I've never seen this before. You want them to feel that. And even though, yes, as human beings, they can tell us something about it, they'll feel the point of what you're making. It will come across to them. Reward curiosity. Players should be encouraged to ask questions. The game is built around exploration. Characters who investigate unusual objects, hidden passages, strange noises, and unexplored sections of the ship should regularly uncover useful information or opportunities. Curiosity should feel rewarded. Many of the best moments in Metamorphosis Alpha occurs because players decide to investigate something unusual. So when you're spreading out possible items, information, stuff like that, you want to make sure there's enough that these type of moments are exactly like put them in odd places, let them try out different things. And if you have to improvise sometimes, because this is what it's saying to you, the game really thinks you should. So it's like, hey, what haven't you introduced yet? All right, they want to try something unusual. Put something there. Because again, this is not, you're not giving them experience points, but you do want them to, how can I say, the reward here is going to work. The reward for curiosity rewards gameplay that you want from them. You don't always have to break a game or take a challenge away to reward curiosity or to reward something, a certain game style. But this is one where you don't have to overkill with what you're giving, but a new piece of information, some slight information, or a new potential item in this unusual attempt to find something. If you haven't already put something there, put it there. So if you're explaining stuff to your players and they start going, hey man, I want to go check this out. Get ready to improvise if you have to. And it will be worth it because they'll love the fact that their curiosity has found something and you want them to play that way through this game. So you want them to keep trying that stuff. All right. What will happen to players if they hit failure or failure or failure? They become plain Jane. And you don't want that to begin with. So keep them on the narrow. It doesn't mean you always have to give a reward for every unusual thing they do. But the early one or two times, get them into the mode that it's possible to get an award. And then you don't have to always. Like if they just go for odd things where there be nothing, there's nothing, right? But try your best not to make that the first experience they have is nothing. Because you're planting a seed. Make every area feel different. The Starship Warden is enormous. Different sections should feel distinct from one another. One area might contain mutated plants, overgrown corridors, environmental hazards. Another might contain functioning robots, ancient laboratories, preserved technology. A third may be home to an isolated society with its own beliefs and traditions. The more varied the environments feel, the more believable the ship becomes. So what it's really saying here is, first off, make sure you're explaining areas to them so they like the different descriptions of the areas they're coming into. Like you guys are going to notice up here, like even the colors are a bit different, or the rooms or the doors or the whatever is a bit different, right? Like doors down there were all still sealed. Doors up here seem to be wide open. And like different rooms, different places, functioning robots, even non-functioning robots where there might have been no robots that you even encountered on the floor before. The differences matter. So that's a feel, and you want to make sure you're describing it so they can visualize it with their imagination. And then you want them to experience different things. Maybe run into living robots, or not living robots, but moving robots. And the next one, they're running into a faction, an isolated, group of people. Treat technology like treasure. Players should become excited when they discover technology. A working laser pistol should feel like a major find. A functioning medical device should feel valuable. A computer database might reveal secrets that change the entire campaign. Technology often serves the same role the treasure or a magic item serves in a fantasy game. Make a discovery feel important, meaning, okay, they have no exact weapons and the robots seem really dangerous, but that laser gun changes things. They could be really damaged by the robots. Maybe they are, maybe somebody's already hurt. That medical device actually heals them up. Or what about knowledge about the ship? Like more knowledge about the ship that starts telling them they're on a ship. Or there's a hint that they're on something that moves. Right? That changes their perspective. Like, again, as ignorant as you can keep players about the setting in this game, keep them on purpose. Right? Or, have that at least the players are going to be true to the characters and they'll keep their characters ignorant. So they're basically what you're saying is the metagaming knowledge, if you're using it here, you're destroying the game. So I would tell players, definitely do not use the knowledge with your characters that this is a ship. Like I have to punish you there. But if you get that computer up and going, that computer device, well, guess what? They can find out a bit more. And now with that knowledge, you don't have to play so ignorant with the characters anymore. Now you can look for things that you might not be able to look for before. So that can change the direction or the options in the campaign. Let ignorance create adventure. One of the most interesting aspects of the setting is that many inhabitants do not understand the world they live in. This misunderstanding creates opportunities for adventure. The computer may be worshipped. Maintenance robot may be mistaken for a monster. A security system may be interpreted as a supernatural force. Use these misunderstandings to create interesting situations and cultural conflicts. This is where you got to get players to role play the characters' ignorance on purpose. You got to have a talk with them because look, I'm sorry. Players will not lean into this stuff too well if you don't let them know how ignorant their characters are. So communication from game master to players about their characters' ignorance is important. And put seeds like this in their heads. So what I'm saying here, put the seeds in their heads. You might see a robot as a monster. Put the seed in their head because they might not think to do this. So seed ideas in their heads. And when they get into the game, they'll want to play that out. You'll be surprised too. And the ignorance will be refreshing because once they believe it, they're going to play to it. Uh-oh. Well, then how do you get your character to not listen to the God computer? So the chances players would see back in the 70s with players so ignorant to what these things are, maybe you could get some really ignorant people that don't know this stuff and be able to really get people to maybe think a robot is a monster. It just won't sell that way now. We all know this. So you need to seed ideas and make the idea of their ignorance fun. It's fun that you might not know what a robot is, so you think it's a monster. Right? And that is fun. There is nothing. So seed this shit in your players' heads. That's good advice for Metamorphosis Alpha. Trust me on that. Mutations should create problems as well as solutions. It is easy to treat mutations as powers and nothing more. Doing so misses part of what makes the setting interesting. Mutations should solve problems, create complications, affect social interactions. Influence has how groups view one another. A mutation may be a blessing, a curse, or both at the same time. The more mutations shape the world around the characters, the more distinct the Metamorphosis Alpha feels. Meaning, someone who's pure might be someone mutated people want to kill. Or mutations amongst the characters could be something where it lets them actually trade with the people that would have killed them otherwise. Maybe pures don't want to talk to mutated people. Or maybe they want to hire your mutated ass to go in and get information from the other faction of mutated people. So play to the relationships, the openings, the doors, the deals, how they view you. Play to it, not against it. Don't just make it that because you're mutated, you got an extra ability. It's you turn it into a game. You don't want that and that like a video game. Use factions. The Starship Warden feels more alive when it contains groups with competing interests. It's like Benny is the name. So use factions. I'm just sort of talking about factions here. Starship Warden feels far more alive when it contains groups with competing interests. That's what I just said. The purists don't want to deal with them. They might deal with you. They might. So there's politics. There's threats. How would the pure people deal with someone who's mutated if they're offended by them? Would they lock them up? Would they kill them? And is every pure group as strict as another? Or would there be two pure groups that are opposed to each other for different political reasons or whatever? Or even two mutated groups or just one sort of down the middle group? You know what I'm saying? Like the variations you could create with this is important. So, contains groups with competing interests. This may include human communities, mutant societies, robot controlled regions. But robots can be something, they could even be led by a person. Isolated settlements, rival tribes. Different groups should have different goals, beliefs, fears, and needs. Not every encounter needs to end in combat. So, this is where negotiation, alliances, trade, and diplomacy can be just as important as fighting. And you want to make that real. Because that's part of, you're not just doing, it's not a fighting game. It's not just fighting. It's the role play aspect. Making deals. Who's who? What's what are your advantages? What are your disadvantages? How do you use them against people? How do you bring people together? That stuff is not boring. And once you create it, once you create these different groups where that can happen, then you just got to let the players play into it. You start and you let it just unfold. Right? Put the notes you need to. They won't just kill, but they might lock you up. Like it's put the notes you need so you know reactions. Oh, these guys will probably kill you for something less or blah, blah, blah. Really basic stuff. Keep the weirdness high. Metamorphosis Alpha is at its best when it feels strange. Players should never be completely certain what waits behind the next door. Mix together mutants, robots, ancient technologies, strange environments, unknown life forms. The ship should feel unpredictable and occasionally bizarre. It's okay to play to the crazy. It's like, man, wouldn't that be like a little bit too nuanced? And no, this place is nuanced and crazy. It's exactly that. And so it's in itself, the whole setting is justified to be it. So the crazy's okay here. The mixing. Why would the robot listen to that mutant and not listen to the other robots? Well, they've been hiding in this room for a while. Right? What if you help get them out? They'll make a deal for you. Play, or maybe they want to kill. But play to the crazy on purpose. There's no shame. Bizarre here is accepted. If everything becomes familiar, some of the game's unique charm is lost. It doesn't mean every moment has to be nuts, but running into a weird situation, it shouldn't just be rare. It doesn't have to be overly common, but somewhere down the middle. Somewhere down the middle. Like, of the pure humans, they hate mutated people. And then you find some weird back room, and then you notice something. You're gonna open it. Like, you can't open it. You gotta unscrew it. You gotta take it apart, and you find a door. Open the door, and you see two mutants, and they're in a room attached to a room at a pure street, like pure human area. What the fuck? What the fuck? Play to the crazy. How'd they get there? Maybe there's another access point. And they know, maybe sometimes they sneak into the pure human area from this place. Or maybe there's some pure humans that keep them there and get them to make stuff because they're actually smart. You get what I'm saying? The excuse for the crazy is okay. Except don't be afraid to play to it. And it's like giving you permission, right? That's what I'm doing here. Exploration is more important than combat. Combat exists, but it's not usually the main attraction. 1 second. Okay. All right, let's go back to this. So, exploration is not more important than combat. Like I was saying, combat exists, but it's not usually the main attraction. The game's greatest strength is exploration. Players should spend their time investigating mysteries, mapping unknown areas, learning about factions, experimenting with technology, discovering forgotten history. Metamorphosis Alpha is often closer to exploration, resource management, and problem solving than tactical combat. This is where like a pressure from pressures like you're running out of food. You can't stay in the area you are because there's something going to fill up in that place sooner or later. So when they start the game, maybe start them on the floor in an area where maybe they're just staying for a while, but something's happened. They're running out of food. They need to move, right? And then moving is dangerous. You never know who's going to kill you. So the idea of standing still, because it's like you're on the floor, but there's like a security robot that goes back and forth. So you've got to not stay out in that hallway all the time, right? Oh my. Just keep that in mind. So again, Metamorphosis Alpha is often closer to exploration, resource management, and problem solving than tactical combat. Characters who rely entirely on violence will often miss opportunities or create unnecessary dangers. Clever play frequently matters more than winning a fight. It's not D&D combat. You definitely can do some combat here, but the consequences because of what's going on, who you can draw to you, you could be outnumbered right quick or have big robots come after you, whatever, get killed right away. You could make entire enemies. You could do something you regret later. There's a connection you could have had. So in a way, the attempt to look at options like negotiating, being careful, and not running into combat is more valuable to the characters in a real sense here. And there should be value to it that you guarantee as a game master. That it doesn't mean that all moments of fighting or combat isn't worth doing. Some situations could be good to take down the security robot. It could be, right? It could be right to make that move. But maybe it's better to know a little bit more before they do it. Total Recall character Benny, a mutant who helped Hassan Quad. It was interesting so far. Rewatch later. I hear you, Mr. Norway. You go get some sleep. And yes, I never even thought of the Benny thing. I appreciate you explaining that. That's a good one. Yes, I never even thought about that. My hip was so here, but I appreciate that. That's cool. Yes, watch when you get more time, man. And I hope you do want to run this for your players. So take care for now, Philo. Remember, the ship is a dungeon. Many old school players describe Metamorphosis Alpha as D&D inside of a giant starship. That is an oversimplification, but it helps explain how the game functions. The starship warden contains levels, hazards, strange inhabitants, valuable discoveries, hidden secrets. Much like a classic dungeon, players gradually push deeper into unknown territory. The difference is that every corridor, laboratory, and control room is part of a forgotten technological civilization. So it's just basically saying it's not complete. The concept isn't wrong, but the amount of nuance here makes it not exactly a Dungeons and Dragons dungeon. Right? There's just a mountain of nuance here, right? Let players change the ship. Okay, as players learn more about the Starship Warden, their actions should have lasting effects. They might restore damaged systems, open sealed sections, establish alliances, gain access to technology, discover important truths. The campaign becomes more satisfying when players feel that their discoveries matter. The ship should evolve as they interact with it. It could be like they find out a secret that allows them to finally access some type of computer network that might not function on every floor, but it functions on some floors, right? And if they take a certain device with them, it can talk to them. Like maybe even in text, but just tell them, you got to be careful here. Basically what it's saying is make sure the knowledge they get isn't just a nothing burger. So when they get knowledge, you should tell them a bit about something, but it might also tell them there's also a place to get more weapons or information to get the ship running up. So there is a barrier you can put up on the innocent action here, a thing that makes it so people can't just come by and kill them. You get it? Like you just start making stuff now. It's all consideration as you're putting it together, but consider these things as you're deciding how this functions. Because yes, Game Master, you will be making a lot of decisions on how this goes. So it's a lot is up to you. You are the master of the game for real. Old school mini games like this really do put that on you. Use the truth sparingly. One temptation is to reveal the full truth about the Starship Warning too quickly. Please avoid this. Again, as I said earlier, the mystery is one of the game's greatest strengths. Instead, reveal information gradually. Strange clues. That means not all clues have to just be guaranteed knowledge. But you definitely want the clues to get to knowledge. So you never want things to be a waste of time, but it doesn't mean every time they find something, there's guaranteed it's a big reward. But it's just like it might lead to the piece of information that gets them the type of knowledge, hooks them up to computers, gets them weapons. Partial records mean they got to find the rest to get this information that's going to be effective. Damaged databases, something they can fix later. Conflicting stories, they need to get the rest. So you don't always have to give everything at once, but you still can create clues to get them on a track, wanting to look for something, incentive to keep going on it. Ancient logs. Every answer should raise new questions. The journey towards understanding is often more interesting than the final explanation. So even though you will have pieces that will lead them, hey, to where weapons are, sometimes it's you're finding the piece that you need the other piece for before you even get to that point, right? So just keep that in mind. Metamorphosis Alpha works best when run as a campaign of exploration, discovery, mystery, and survival. The goal is not simply to defeat enemies. The goal is to uncover truth about the forgotten world hidden inside a starship. When run well, mind you, players begin believing they are exploring a strange and dangerous environment. Eventually, they realize that they are exploring the ruins of humanity's future, and that revelation remains one of the most memorable experiences in all of old school role-playing games. How vague did I just say that? How vague did I just say that? Game Master, you hear what I just said? I kept that part right to the end of that part. I'm going to smoke the rest of this one. Bill might already know what I'm talking about. If you're new to Metamorphosis Alpha, I hope you just heard my last few words there. Hope you're paying attention. Hope you're really paying attention. Metamorphosis Alpha might seem weird, but it's more connected to the real world than you think. So what if I told you Metamorphosis Alpha is not like a Forgotten Realms spaceship or space station? That's all connected to the real world. Like as far as story, for fiction reasons. That's one of the biggest secrets you'll find out at the end. As players. I don't want to say exactly what that means. What it really means is, hey, Elon Musk, you tried, kid. Good try. You get it? I mean, I think it's fucking grand. I think it's fucking amazing. If anybody listening to this gets it, good. We tried. I guess what you're seeing in the game means it's not completely over, but we tried. We tried. We gave it a go. And there we are. It's always my funnest reveal at the end for players who don't know. Because they are amazed by that, like, because they don't, you don't always think that's going to be the answer. You start hinting towards it, but when they get to that answer, cool, Black Rose, I knew you would. But I hope that excites everyone listening. That got me into wanting to run it. Like before I even ran it for the first time, I discovered that was I was like, okay, fuck, I'm running this. Yep. You're fucking teed, I'm running this. Holy fuck. Oh yeah, yeah, no. That's all good. That's all good. That's all good. That's all good. No worries. You could have told me whatever you want. But I'm just saying it out loud. I appreciate the effort to respond there, Black Rose. I know you got the kid with you. I know you get the baby. Hey baby. Try not to curse as much. Sorry about that. But hey baby. Uh, but when I discovered that, man, I nerded out. I went from it sounds okay, okay. I'm in. I'm in. I'm in. That's the piece that guarantees I'm in. Right. That's the piece that got me so nerded out, and I was like, that is awesome. That makes the whole thing awesome. And don't get it wrong, I like all the other aspects of the game too. And I love it. I love it. Right. I love it. I love it. Don't get it wrong. I like spaceships, exploring with spaceships and spaceship combat. I like all that stuff. But this one was just wow. Maybe that's not the answer I expected from the game. And when I got to that answer, I was like, because it got me. Oh, oh, hi, hi, baby, baby, what's up, baby? I would ask her name on a stream chat thing. You could tell me that in private one of these. I think you've told me before, but I forget. Sorry to be so rude. Hey, baby, I'm not good with names, kiddo. I'm not good with names. But yes. Got me excited about this game. I hope that's what got Bill into it, because Bill said he had a hard time finding people to play. But imagine if Bill hears this and gets a chance to reply, he'll be like, "Yeah, that part got him too." If we got to that part, that's the part that says, "Oh wow, okay, geez, I'm in. That's it, found it." I'm just, you got to mention it's like phone numbers, right? Somebody tells me their phone number for the first time, it's just like, you better write that down. Why? If it was mine, maybe it'd be that it'd be in a different vein. I would have said it a million times by now. But it's like anything. I'm phone numbers and names. I'm awful. I'm awful, and I don't do it out of hate or uncaring. I really, just a bad habit of my mind's all over the place. You tell me, and then I haven't said it 3 times. Now, once you say it to me the next time, like, because I learned, because I always feel a little embarrassed by it, like, because I don't want it to communicate that I don't care, right? So then I hear it again, I'm like, okay, cool, Bill, cool. No, take your time, Bill. I appreciate you even taking a second to give me the heads up on that. I appreciate that. I really do. And I knew you would. I knew you would. That's not to drill on you, but I just knew. I knew. The second you told me you were into it, I was like, yeah, that's the part that definitely hit him. Not saying the rest didn't work on you, but that part got to be the cherry on top. Like, okay, if I was even iffy on this, now we got it, baby. That's it. That little secret just made it like, thank you, James Ward. You got that right, baby. Anyway, let's get to character creation. First rule, you are not creating a hero. Many modern RPGs assume players began capable adventurers with clear identities and specialized abilities. Metamorphosis Alpha comes from a different era. D&D, the farmer. Characters are often inhabitants of Starship Warden trying to survive a strange and dangerous world. You're not necessarily creating a legendary hero, you're creating someone shaped by generations of isolation, mutation, lost knowledge, and uncertainty. Though, this really has a sort of D&D essence, because a lot of games outside of D&D give you established characters. You can lower them, like with GURPS, you can control if you want high skilled people or low skilled people. But a lot of games are pretty established characters. Not all, but a lot of games. This one definitely leans into you're a farmer on a spaceship. I'm not saying farmers aren't skilled, but I'm using, if you get my point. You're the sort of, you're not the hero in a world where you could be. In a way, the more you go through this game, you're potentially building up somebody from nothing to something over time with guns and knowledge and trade and becoming leaders. So you are developing a character. And I think even Bill said that. It was really great on, I think you might have actually said that, Bill, earlier, which was, it's great for taking that nobody from nothing and building them into something. Definitely the game has an essence of that for real. You might not be human. One of the most unusual aspects of Metamorphosis Alpha is that player characters are not restricted to ordinary humans. Depending on the campaign, the referee's decisions, because for the game master has a lot of authority here in this game, characters may be pure strain humans, human mutants, mutated animals. Yeah. Highly intelligent mutated animals can be just as viable as a player character as a human. Interesting, eh? Interesting. I'm very open-minded. Though I'd have to have the players pitch to me how that was going to work for them, right? But not impossible. I'd be more curious, not to say no. I'd be like, guys, just make it fun to say yes, right? Don't give me something that makes no sense. But in a way, I even say to them, I said to my first group, even if you come up with something that seems too off, I'm probably going to say yes anyway, because the way it is what the place is like. It would be even if you could have sort of make sense of why people are together. In a way, the place doesn't make sense. The party may contain a mixture of radically different life forms, all trying to survive aboard the same ship. Pure strain humans matter. One of the defining ideas of Metamorphosis Alpha is that not everyone aboard the Starship Warden has mutated. Pure strain humans occupy an important place in the setting because mutations has become widespread. Pure humans may possess advantages that mutants lack, particularly when interacting with certain forms of ancient technology. This distinction would later become even more famous in Gamma World, but its roots are already present here. Like, for example, there could be security robot groups on a certain floor that will shoot at mutants because they don't recognize them as humans. But ironically, what you'll find out is if you're a pure human, they were made to serve humans. So if you're a pure strain human, they see you be like, "Hello, master." What? Well, you were just shooting at mutants. We were shooting at those animals. But not you. We are here to serve you. What? Yes, that could be the case. So, or maybe a computer reacts differently. Like it doesn't identify with the creature. Like it treats it like alien, like a mutant. Even though it's a mutated human, it treats the mutated human like an alien. It's a security shield up. Starts cutting you off from rooms, even though you're the one that activated. Huh? But then the shield will go down if it's a pure strain human. Now, again, these are all decisions. This is the freedom of the game master. So nothing has to guarantee work anyway. But this is something you should be considering because it makes it interesting. There's nothing wrong with that. You can make it very challenging, especially if you have mixed groups. But maybe mixed groups is the benefit because at least if you have one pure strain human, they can get at things where others might be cut off. Expect randomness. Character creation contains significant amount of randomness. This reflects the design philosophy of many early RPGs. Rather than carefully engineering the perfect character, players often discover who their character is through the creation process. Mutations, abilities, and other traits may produce surprising combinations. Part of the fun is learning how to make those combinations work. Look, it's not snap the finger you make the characters, but the idea is making the character is fun. Random mutations can define a character. In many RPGs, a special ability is simply one part of the character sheet. In Metamorphosis Alpha, a mutation can completely define who a character becomes because it just the way it works. A certain mutation might dramatically affect appearance, capabilities, social standing, reputation, role within the group. Many characters are discovered rather than designed. You often learn who your character is after the dice are rolled. This is one of the game's most old school characteristics, meaning some areas aren't about choice when you're making a character. Just got to roll and go with it. Like, now, of course, a game master can give you second rolls, third rolls. A game master could choose. A game master could even choose to let you choose. But if they go old school, they can go, you take whatever you roll. There's a lot of old school guys out there that will make you take whatever you roll. Mutations define many characters. I'll give you two. I'll give you two rolls. If you don't like the first one, my rule is this. If you gamble the first one, you got to take the second one. But what if I like the first one? Either you take the first one or you give it away. Mutations define many characters. Mutations are one of the most important parts of the character creation. They help distinguish characters from one another and contribute heavily to the game's identity. Mutations generally fall into two broad categories. Physical mutations. These affect the body. Examples include extra limbs, enhanced senses, natural weapons, increased mobility, unusual biological traits. Mental mutations. These often function more like psychic abilities. The mental mutations. Examples include telepathy, telekinesis, mental attacks, other unusual psychic powers. Mutations are one of the major reasons Metamorphosis Alpha feels different from most science fiction RPGs. It's how do you bring some fantasy in without it maybe being completely fantasy, but yet with some fantasy. It's not like magic wizards, but it is psychic powers that are allowed to exist. Mutations are not always benefits. One of the most important things for players to understand is that mutations are not simply powers. Many mutations create complications. Some may make social interactions difficult. As we talked about, create unwanted attention from the robots, right? Trying to kill you. Cause physical problems. Well, guess what? You can't just get around that easily, and maybe you need more food or whatever. Lead to fear or distrust, right? Just could, especially if a game master put an NPC in with your group. The game becomes more interesting when mutations are viewed as part of the characters rather than as a collection of advantages. Mutated animals are weird on purpose. Modern audiences sometimes imagine mutated animals as little more than talking animals. Metamorphosis Alpha is often more stranger than that. Mutated animals may include possess intelligence, use tools, develop societies, exhibit mutations of their own. At the same time, they may still retain many traits associated with their original species. The result can be wonderfully bizarre and is part of what gives the game its unique identity. So basically, even though he's intelligent, the dog is still somewhat controlled by the instincts. Right? Right? So the guarantee civilized part of the dog can be up and down. Knowledge is valuable. So how would they maintain that? Maybe they have ways. Maybe they have psychic ways. Who knows? But again, this is all the weirdness. I hope that makes it sound fun. I don't want to clear the air too much. I hope it just sounds fun. Knowledge is valuable. Knowledge is one of the most valuable resources in Metamorphosis Alpha. The character who understands something others do not can become extremely important. So this part of character creation, I'm just telling you how to play the game. It's not about playing the game. It's about character creation. Your character through character creation can know things or be able to know things right away. So this is what I want you to consider when you're making the character. That knowledge might involve ancient technologies, mutations, history of the ship, strange life forms, dangerous environment. So your character might be able to understand these things, through this type of, through the options you're picking through character creation. Many problems aboard the Starship Boarded are solved through understanding rather than combat. It's such an important part of the game, the non-combat part. And don't get it wrong. What I like about Metamorphosis Alpha is it loves everything. And I'm a game master who loves everything. Right? So I love combat. But I love exploration. I love discovery. I love all these aspects. And Metamorphosis Alpha doesn't say combat is as strict as other games. But what it says is there's so much value in every area of the game that don't just stick to one. Don't just think all characters should be combat. Maybe one player plays more to combat, one player plays more to this. So as a group, you come up with these ways to solve these issues. Technology can shape a character. Technology often becomes an important part of the character's identity. A character who gains access to advanced weapons, ancient equipment, medical technology, technical knowledge may occupy a unique role within the group. Technology is not just gear, it's often a source of status, mystery, and opportunity. Even some would consider power, because you can run into a group who has no guns at all. And you could be like, well, if you guys don't do as we say, we're going to take you over. How empowering that is that as a player character? Run into a group and say, well, we get a rifle. You want to fight me with your stick? Or you want to all bow down to me now? That's amazing. That's amazing. Right? And just learning how to use that rifle, what if you find more and you've already learned how to use this one? Ooh, so you've had time to practice with it with all your characters. Don't build for combat alone. New players sometimes focus entirely on combat effectiveness. That can be a mistake. The Starship Warner rewards exploration, problem solving, curiosity, discovery, adaptability. A character who contributes outside of combat can be just as valuable as a powerful fighter. As you know, I think I made that quite clear, but I want to drill that point. Work with the group. Because survival can be difficult, groups benefit from diverse abilities. What I was talking about. A party consisting entirely of warriors may struggle with technology or technological challenges. A party focused entirely on technical skills may struggle with dangerous encounters. Different strengths help the group deal with many threats found throughout the ship. So it's just a reason to bring all these different roles in through players, right? So, if you're going to run around like it's a combat game, you're going to be disappointed. You're going to miss out on so much of the game, right? So, you sort of just got to have the players negotiate what roles do they want to play in the party. And have them spread out. It doesn't mean you can't be somewhat combative, right? But maybe you want someone who's like super techie. He's going to be really no combat at all. But maybe you want someone who's somewhat stealth, but somewhat combat as well, and someone who's super combat, so they can at least together deal with some danger, right? But at least you got one who specializes in it, while you got other people who are specializing in other areas. And maybe you got like one or two players that are down the middle on some things, a little bit of combat, a little bit of this, right? Think about how your character sees the world. One of the most interesting role-playing opportunities comes from the setting itself. Many characters do not understand the nature of the ship, advanced technology, their own history. A player should consider, what does my character believe about the world? The answer may be very different from the truth. Those misconceptions often create memorable role-playing opportunities. Meaning, this question is important. What does my character believe about the world? And then this is really a game where you have to tell players, I'm going to trust you not to play Tom from 2026. Okay, Tom? Tom, I want you to play someone who would be lost in this situation, in a fucked up situation, in this needing to survive and scared without the security you have sitting at the table here right now, Tom. Because, Tom, you're in 2026, securely, safely sitting at a table with a bottle of pop. Right? You're not there with the same security that you have here. So, Tom, could you play a character that is from here? And based on that character, how does that character see their world, right? So have that talk, because here's what a lot of players do. It sounds so simple, but this is one of my biggest pieces of advice, because you can run into, not all players, most players are pretty good, but you can run into some players that are Tom. And if any of us been in the hobby long enough or got around with a lot of players, we know there's a fair share of Toms out there, right? And Toms can be very disappointing to the experience. So you got to have your talk, so you get Tom not to play Tom 2026 sitting down at the table with a bottle of pop, securely safe. You got to get him to think like somebody, his character, more than just thinking like himself, secure with his bottle of pop sitting at the table. Like Tom could tell the big evil to fuck off, because Tom is safe. Doesn't matter what he says, because he's sitting with a bottle of pop at the table, right? But we want Tom to play the character, and the character is not safe. So try to make sure Tom avoids being Tom. It's good advice. Really good advice. Accept strange characters. Metamorphosis Alpha is not a game about normality. Characters may possess unusual mutations, strange appearances, unexpected abilities. Embrace the weirdness. The game becomes more enjoyable when players lean into the setting's bizarre nature rather than trying to create conventional science fiction heroes. No matter how much options you're given, lean into it. Tell the players, weird here, even with your characters, is not just acceptable. In a way, there's almost an expectation to it, right? Almost expected. Expect danger. Metamorphosis Alpha comes from an era when survival was not guaranteed. Exploration is risky. Technology can be dangerous. Mutations can create problems. The ship itself contains countless hazards. Players should be prepared to adapt when things go wrong. A clever survivor will often outlive a reckless powerhouse character. So again, having some combat stuff is not bad, but consider the other options. Understand how important they can be, and then play to them. And don't just run around like you're playing a board game or a video game trying to fight everything. This game can make you pay a price for being foolish like that. And combat's not the centerpiece of the game. This is a role-playing game. Right? If you want to play a board game or a video game, go do that. If you want to play a role-playing game where you're playing a character who's doing more than just fighting, this is what old school is about. And this game especially is about that. Survival, like I said, is more important than optimization. Because the game survival is more important than optimization. Because the game comes from the earliest era of role-playing, survival often matters more than character optimization. If you don't want to go through 5 characters like you would in a D&D game, which you shouldn't even do that, survival is important. You don't just run the fights, you avoid as much as you can. You negotiate and do everything. Creative thinking, caution, and good decisions frequently matter more than possessing the strongest mutation or best equipment. A clever character can opt to survive situations that overwhelm a more powerful one. Character creation in Metamorphosis Alpha is less about building the perfect character and more about discovering who your character becomes. The combination of random mutations, strange origins, ancient technology, and the possibilities of playing humans, mutants, or mutated animals creates characters unlike those found in most RPGs. The best Metamorphosis Alpha characters are often the ones who embrace the unknown, adapt to the unexpected, and survive long enough to uncover the secrets of the Starship Warden. Okay, before I get to the Starship, the setting, I'm going to take a pause. I hope the how to run in character creation, because I can't give you better advice for the game as far as making a character and evolving how you play, right? Including how you play, how you make a character. Most game masters would never have the talk with you players that is this deep about this game. So any player who goes to play Metamorphosis Alpha, this part should be very valuable to you. Most game masters would never have this type of detailed, nuanced talk with you. Now, how to run it too. Even the text, even the book. Bill will know this. I know, Bill, you're driving. Don't worry about responding right away. Bill has read the book. The book doesn't give you this type of walkthrough on running the game. It's gonna tell you that you have options, but it doesn't give you all the advice to how to use them because it's still a new game at the time. It's still a new game at the time. And I hate to say it, I like James Ward, but he's a good writer with good ideas. I'm a great game master. Not bragging, that's just I'm confident in myself. And I'm a wise game master. Like at game mastery, I believe I don't perform him. Writing and ideas, he would probably not probably, he would outperform me. Right? But then when you give me his ideas, like after he comes up with the great ideas, and he'll come up with better ones than me in most cases, fair enough. But then when he passes it over to me, I'll run it better than he could run it. Right? And I'm not trying to brag there, but that leads me to understanding a lot of deep stuff about the game. And so anything that sounds vague, trust me, if you're going to run this game, or if you're like Bill, who's actually read through the text, I'm sure Bill will back me up on this because I've actually ran this game a number of times. If you read through that text and you just heard my advice, it's like, that's good advice. It's like really good advice, like reminding you of stuff that you won't think about. I'm putting seeds in your mind that sound like common sense, but trust me, when you go to do this, you won't always apply all the common sense. Me planting the seed of these thoughts into your mind is very valuable. It's extremely valuable, right? Because it would take you maybe several runs to get most of these just reminders, put in your head, oh yeah, I should have done that. Well, I'm helping you avoid should have done that. Not bragging, I'm just saying that's why it's good knowledge. And I can give you that knowledge because I actually ran Metamorphosis Alpha. So when people doubt that I ran this stuff or did this stuff, it's like, trust me, no. It's you have to have gone through the, I wish I would have done that. I wish I would have thought of that several times before you come back to it at that stage. Lucky for everyone listening is I've done that. I missed that. I thought about that. My wisdom finally picked up that. I come back to it and I put it into a package for everyone here. Right? And if you have to listen to it twice, the part where it's how to run, listen to it twice because that will guarantee you'll get in the right place for a brainstorm and a thought pattern for how you want to put together the game, your limitations, your options, how you want to consider letting players play the game, what you want to do, how you want to let them play, or how you want to let them make characters. Right? Very valuable. Even the character creation part is good for the game master too. But the player part alone, if players know a bit too much about the game, I can save you by still making it fun for the players by them just listening to what I say. Because if they go into it playing their characters for what they are and everything else, they'll still have fun. So there's a great thing about Metamorphosis Alpha. I had to restart with one group, but regardless, they had fun. They didn't know the whole thing, but they knew a lot. And they still went in and still were able to play to the mystery with their characters and enjoy it. Oh, almost at 3 hours. Almost at 3 hours. That's good. That's good. I'm happy. Hope you guys are happy so far. I hope the sound of this game sounds appealing. Right? Hope it sounds appealing. And I do long form streams here, so I sort of treat it like a Joe Rogan thing. I have no shame about stopping to this. If you're like, well, he's stopping to smoke, blah, blah, blah. Well, other people do podcasts and streams and do this stuff casual, especially if you do it for a long period of time. Right? I do, on average, especially lately, I've been doing these for 3 to 4 hours, at least almost 4 hours every stream. So very rarely do I do something like under 2 hours. Like I did a couple off scripts there recently, but they were just like unplanned ones where they were a little less than 2 hours. Most of my streams are like 4 hours long now on average. It's a lot longer than most of the guys out there give to people in time. That's why it disappoints me there's not more people that want to check, because I mean, it's not. I'm fine with the stage stuff, but sometimes I do wish people would realize the advantage they have with me here, and that I have a lot of valuable thoughts and wise things to say. It's like it'd be great to interact, and not everyone has to hate my guts. You can interact. uh, I put out a video yesterday because I didn't want to talk about some of the dramatic stuff anymore, so I figured I'd just make a video and put that out. Said my piece. I'm not going to say any more on stream tonight, but it just bothered me. So I know if I'm bringing it up on streams, the best thing to do instead of keep talking about the same thing on stream all the time with that stuff is just make a video and get it off my chest. And I did. I won't mention no more about it, but I got it out of my system. Some of the negative stuff, which is boring. Okay, let's go into the setting. Setting, the Starship Warden. A world that isn't a world. At first glance, the setting of Metamorphosis Alpha appears to be a strange post-apocalyptic world filled with mutants, ancient ruins, lost technology, dangerous creatures, isolated societies. The truth is far stranger. The entire setting exists aboard a gigantic generation ship known as the Starship Warden. That single idea became one of the most memorable concepts in early role-playing games. What is the Starship Warden? The Starship Warden was originally built as a massive colony ship. Its purpose was to transport thousands of people on the journey to another star system. Unlike a short voyage, this mission would take generations to complete. Entire families would live, age, and die aboard a vessel before it ever reached its destination. To support this mission, the ship was designed to function as a self-contained world. The Warden carried not only people, but also much of the life needed to establish a future colony, including animals, plants, agricultural systems, ecological support systems. This helps explain why so many different environments and life forms exist throughout the ship. You could come on this levels where there could be like small bushes and even like a tree in one of the bigger rooms, right? Maybe even a few trees, right? It could even be so overgrown there's a small waterway going through. You could do some cool things with the things that could potentially have happened over a long period of time. The disaster, at some point during a journey, catastrophe struck. Systems failed. Sections of the ship became isolated. Knowledge was lost. Civilization fractured. Over the centuries, the descendants of the original colonists gradually forgot their mission, their history, their destination, the true nature of the ship itself. What remained was scattered societies struggling to survive in a world they no longer understood. A world of forgotten knowledge. It almost reminds me of paranoia in a certain way, right? They're more aware of where they are, but still forgotten knowledge. A world of forgotten knowledge. One of the defining themes of the setting is lost knowledge. The inhabitants live among advanced technology, but often lack the ability to even understand it. A laser rifle may be viewed as an ancient relic, as we talked about. The setting constantly places characters between two worlds. The advanced civilization that built the ship, the fragmented societies that inherited it. The ship functions like a planet. Although the Warden is a spaceship, most inhabitants experience it as a world. The ship contains agricultural areas, habitation zones, technical sections, research facilities, storage areas, wilderness regions. Many people spend their entire lives without realizing they live inside of a machine. The sheer size of the vessel allows entire cultures to develop independently from one another. You could come onto a floor where it does not look like you're on a floor or something. right? And even the way you come in, you like it'd be like, wow, this is hidden. Like this be hard to find this access point where we came into this place. And when you get into it, you don't see walls and machine, like nothing looks the same. It looks like you're outside. Entire ecosystems exist within the ship. The Starship Warden is far more than corridors and machinery. It contains functioning ecological systems designed to support life for generations. Depending on where the explorers travel, they may encounter forested regions, farmland, animal populations, controlled environments, overgrown habitats. This is one of the reasons the setting often feels more like a world than a vehicle. Entire adventures can occur without characters ever seeing a traditional technological section of the ship. So you could do this stuff, but if the aim of the campaign is always to find the final answer, which is really what it's going to be in most cases, I mean, you could do that for a while. So, like I said, you could extend this out to like 100 sessions. So you can build a long, potentially long campaign with this. But the chances once you find out the secrets that you're going to be interested in coming back for round two, it would probably be more interesting to come back with a round two with a new group of players, or to take a long period of time before you ever come back to it, right? So it's not like D&D where you might just go from one campaign to another in most cases. I'm just warning people. Not saying some people wouldn't, but I say most likely when you do an end run to this, you'll want to take a time out. If not, you start with new players. Isolated societies. One of the most interesting aspects of the setting is the existence of isolated communities because different areas became cut off from one another. Societies developed along very different, alongside, but maybe in very different paths. Some groups may preserve fragments of old knowledge. Others may rely on myths and superstitions. Some may coexist with mutants. Others may fear or prosecute them. Every region of the ship can feel like a separate world with its own culture and history. Mutations everywhere. Generations of exposure to unusual conditions have changed much of the population. Human mutants, mutated animals, and strange life forms are common throughout the ship, like I've already said. These mutations help create a setting that feels both familiar and alien. Not every strange creature aboard the ship is necessarily the result of mutation. However, some may originate from escaped animal populations, environmental adaptation, artificial manipulation, generations of isolation, evolution. So some could just change more natural forms. The result is a world where almost anything might be encountered around the next corner. Robots and ancient systems. The Starship Warden was designed to operate for centuries. As a result, many automated systems continue functioning long after their creators are gone. Characters may encounter maintenance robots, security systems, automated defenses, operational computers. Some systems still attempt to perform their original duties, others malfunction. Some have become hazards in their own right. These remnants of the ship's original purpose constantly remind players that the world was once something very different. So basically, it's just like saying you can run the shutdown programs, and sometimes programs are running in weird, broken ways, almost like again, go back to paranoia, like Frank Computer. There could be something like that. The ship is broken, not dead. One of the most important things to understand about the setting is that the Starship Warden is not a lifeless wreck. It has suffered catastrophic damage, but much of it continues to function. Throughout the ship, explorers may find operating machinery, active life support systems, functional robots, working computers, automated processes that have continued for generations. The ship remains alive in a mechanical sense, even if the few inhabitants understand it. This creates countless opportunities for adventure as ancient systems become allies, hazards, mysteries, or sources of power. Technology as archaeology. Many fantasy games, adventurers search ancient ruins for treasures. In Metamorphosis Alpha, characters often explore ruins of their own civilization. Finding technology is not simply a matter of gaining equipment, It is a form of archaeology. Every discovery reveals another piece of the ship's forgotten history. Players are not just collecting artifacts, they are uncovering the truth about their world. The great mystery. The greatest strength of the setting is its mystery. Most inhabitants do not know what the warden is, why it exists, how large it truly is, what happened to it. As players explore, they slowly uncover answers. Every new discovery changes their understanding of the world around them. The setting itself becomes a puzzle waiting to be solved. The genius of the Starship Warning is that it works on two levels. The characters is simply the world they live in. The players, it's a gigantic mystery, slowly revealing itself piece by piece. That combination of exploration, discovery, lost knowledge, and forgotten technology, functioning ancient systems, and hidden history is what makes the setting one of the most influential, memorable environments in the history of role playing. I just don't need to give it more fluff. The how to run it gives it a lot of details. There you go. I fluffed it up a bit at the end there, just sort of give you some ideas, help you think about the world again, telling you about the environment. So I wanted to emphasize some of that stuff I thought was not emphasized in the how to run part or the starting point about the starship, the colony ship. But there you go. That is the game. At least that's the game as far as the selling point to you. There's more to it, obviously, but I don't go into the book and give every detail out of any game. It's always an overview, and I tell you what I think is what makes the game great, and it will all be true. There's nothing that will contradict what I told you. There won't be counters to it. There might be stuff that I exactly didn't point out to you, but there'll be nothing that contradicts it. I think it's a fucking great game. It's a fantastic, fucking awesome game, and there's so much to it. No matter how many different adventures you set up, so like I said, it can be turned into 100 sessions. It can last quite a while because there's a lot to do. But it's always one main run. Discovering the truth. That's it. There's one truth. That's it. Now, at the end, by the time you discover the truth, you could have it set up by the game master that within discovering the truth, they could turn the entire bigger system back on and fix it. And so whatever it was trying to do, it starts doing again. Save the day. Be the heroes by the end. But originally, you're making a survivor, not a hero. It doesn't mean you don't develop into a hero at one point or can. You can be the heroes of the story. It is all possible. But what is a hero? There's so much nuance and complications. It's the Starship Warden. I've been telling you the name the entire time. I mentioned the name like fucking 20 times now. Scope of the magnitude of it, is it given just about spaceship? Though, what is the scope of the magnitude, and is it given a specific name? The Starship Warden. That's the specific name. I told you, it's a big world. It's so massive, it can hold on like a level, could be a forested area where there's like farmland. Just think about how big that is, right? It gives you more details when you're going to read it. But the idea is it's sort of vague too. There's a little bit of vagueness, but it is meant to be massive. It's a colony ship. So think about a ship almost the size of a planet type of thing. I think in that vein. That's the easiest way to put it. Like, does it give you a fucking mathematical size on the ship? Not exactly in detail. There's a bit of a guessing game, but it's like the size of a planet. And you're thinking like it's like whole forested areas, stuff like that, right? It's massive. It's colony. It's for a population of a world to go and colonize another world. The Starship Warden Black Rose. It must have just floated over your head. I think you think I was just using a term maybe from the game. No, it's what's called the Starship Warden. I think that just might have skipped over you. But no, it has no other name other than the Starship Warden. It is actually called the Starship Warden. So there is a name. There you go, buddy. The size is like size of a planet. You're like, I gave you, that's why I was telling you the stuff that you needed to know was, like, think about it. You can have all forested areas, environment areas, complete levels with places where people live, entire little civilizations that could have a city, if not more. Like they could have a city with some farmland around the city. Like that's just a fucking floor, dude. Right? You could have it where a small river runs through an area, right? Like where the place is so overgrown, you can't even see the walls anymore. You think you're outside. And who knows how light is produced, but the people don't know. They're ignorant. And that means I want to leave some mystery. I don't want to say every detail, but the ship was left in a wreck. And imagine, for whatever reason, the wreck has caused so much damage that maybe the few people that knew the whole story about it are dead, gone, or there's a few people that know. But they're all cut off from other areas for long periods of time. So over such a long period of time, they stay away from mutants, and mutants don't, like, they're like a lost group that don't know what's happening. They don't know who they are. They don't know why they're on a ship. You could have one pure strain of humans get separated from the people that know stuff, and they cut them off for security reasons. Right? And then who knows who would have fought over knowledge. Just wondering if there was always a same setting or one that would vary depending on the campaign kind of abstract setting. I'll let you finish. No, it's just the same. It varies. The Starship Warden is what it is, but the game master has a lot to say about how it's made up. Always was the ship, or could it be like other ships based on inspiration from that ship? Kind of like a. It is just the Spaceship Warden, dude. Spaceship Warden, and you have the power to customize it whatever way you want, to a degree. That's it. The size of a planet. I mean, I can't remember if it exactly has the size and detail in there, but it's like the size of a planet, right? I mean, it's been a long time since I ran, being real with you, but it's like the size of a planet. That's how much I know about it for sure. Yeah, on the top of my head, I remember it's like the size of a planet. Yeah. It'd really be hard to estimate, even for a fucking James M. Ward, to give you a specific size, and then say it's like the size of a planet. He gives you the idea of how big the place is, and tells you that this can be there, this can be there, this can be there, and he lets you sort of like just feel it over. If you want to put a few towns around an area, there's a forest, there's some farmland. It's like big enough to be like a small continent area. You know what I mean? Like it's so massive. Like you could have a city, you could have land around that, you could do all that. Now it's more like measuring out with your common sense, but there is some idea of size in the books, no doubt. Is it necessary to talk about that? That is so specific that I'll let you go nerd out on that when you go get the thing. But is it necessary to put it in this stream? No, not at all. The stage is like me giving you a piece of gold and you going, hey man, you got any more? Dude, you gotta go get it yourself. You're asking for the work that I would leave you to do. It's like that's the work I would leave you if you want to know that much, because the communication, what I've said, is pretty much covering what you need to know. It's like if I said, well, it's this size, you'd be like, well, no, I don't want to run the game. I hear you, though. I hear you. You're just nerding out on certain details. Nerds asking things that are not necessary for an overview. I mean, I could go search it up. I just don't remember off the top of my head. I should know, even with you, Black Rose Arab. Sometimes I remember to take certain notes on nerdy questions. Like I remember this. Sometimes I do take notes on purpose. Like, you know what? I shouldn't have to say this, but I could see somebody asking me about this fucking stupid thing. Because I know my fellow nerds. Like, would you need to know this? No, everything's good enough. But would they fucking ask me that question? Yeah, they probably would. Meaningless fucking question, but they'd probably ask. No, it's not. It's your nerd. I get it. If the answer added something to the pitch, I would see it being valuable. But telling you that you could make a place pretty much like a massive size area for each level, and then giving you the idea of like building a city or a forest and all that, that should cover. And in reality, James Ward is not looking for you to be exact. He wants to give you an idea so you understand that you don't just got small little levels to play with, right? That you can pretty much assume a lot of stuff in. But it's more an assumption. He's not going to expect you, the player, to measure out how big the city is that you're putting up there. So that's unrealistic. I mean, don't bother giving. If that's the game you're going to give, you've gone from hobbyist to just pure wargamer, and the amount of people that will play Metamorphosis or run Metamorphosis Alpha is going to be cut down. Like, at that stage, you're looking to sabotage the game more than you're helping it. Like you said, here's the size, and here's the size you'd be working. Okay, because TSR, I guarantee, wouldn't put that game up. They'd be like, yeah, okay, yeah, it's not going to sell. Why? You're asking for too much, even from casual nerds that will still take many things you're putting out there serious. Metamorphosis Alpha, though, is something you should. I hope I'm getting, because I know you're going to keep gaming. See, I don't expect you to do this stuff right away. But is this a good single run with your players when you need a break? Holy fuck, yes, dude. Holy fuck. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I know you like some space stuff. Whoo. And if you're an idea stealer, I mean, it's just good if you're an idea. If you're a fudge person or GURPS, yeah, get this game all day long, baby. Get this game all day long. But Mysteria has to be the one for you, because you can do your second edition with that. And your players will love Mysteria. And it's a setting you weren't even expecting to be into. It's a setting that is such a secret gem. I'm glad Bill was here to be very supportive on that setting, because it's such a secret gem. And I say secret because I just know so many people that even though there's a whole fucking YouTube channel on it, there's still people I'll say casually to, even on the internet. Have you tried Mysteria? What's that? But guess what? Even with YouTube channels, you only hit so many people, right? So even though there's a YouTube channel that's dedicated to the whole setting, it has super fans, it's still strangely not spread out there. And I could tell by you not knowing about it in detail until I told you, right? And it is, I would say, and that's why you should really get Mysteria, it's better than Forgotten Realms. It's better than Ravenloft. It's better than Greyhawk, I would argue. Yeah. Sincerely, it is. It is made for Dungeons and Dragons, for real. The group had before many campaigns ago accidentally got themselves teleported 5,000 years into the future. So I actually built a setting in a gigantic spaceship, kind of like this one. Even if you don't use the game, if you did that again, if you wanted to do something like that again, this would be fun. You could use the spaceship. You can adapt. You can easily adapt the spaceship to whatever, because you just need to just apply rules, from second edition, which are just common sense. It's not hard to figure out what Thaco you would use for robots and how many hit points. Like, you'll find that part easy, and it's not hard to do the guns. I could send you the guns I have for second edition at one point. I'll remember to do that. So if you ever want to go into like where they have laser guns, you could just take my assault rifle, or not assault rifle. That's for a different name. My rifle for second edition, and just switch it a bit over to laser gun. You'd be good, right? You could do that. This would be excellent for it. And it would have like getting it and reading about it would provide you with a crap load of information to help you think. And my how to run it here plant so many seeds in your head that if you really wanted to do that, I'd listen to this again. And time it, because I'm purposely planting seeds in your mind on purpose. Now, they become weaker over time. You don't do this, but if you go to do something like this close to the time, listen to this again. Because I'm not trying to sound crazy here, my dude. And it's not negative manipulation, but that whole rundown is I'm manipulating it. Okay? It's not an attack on you. It's manipulating you in a good way. I'm putting seeds in your head that you don't have to all take notes on. You'll remember. But the longer it takes to get to it, the more they'll fade. So this is about the seeds right now are to pump it up, but they're also good. All my how to runs and character creation stuff is all manipulation of seeds on certain device points. So you notice how I always repeat every time I do these streams to the end. I go, if you ever go to run the game or play the game, come back and listen to this again. I keep telling people that. Why am I doing that? Because some of my examples are not in the material. And you don't just think, and you shouldn't, because they're not. It's a gaming thing. It's really not. It's meant to be a positive thing. So it's not negative manipulation to begin with, right? It's just planting stuff in your head so you won't be able to get away from thinking about it. Like if you're going to think about and do brainstorm or come up with it will help you think without you realizing it's helping you. And I know this stuff. I know how to do that stuff on purpose. So of course it's not negative. I'm glad you totally understand that. But it is planting seeds. So when you'll notice I always do that because that's the valuable part, right? That's it. I'm trying to improve. And that's the part that should always come by. It's like, Steven's just trying to improve my experience. That's why I even tell players here, if I say something and they're like, man, I don't want to do that to kiss your ass. I'm like, anything I say do improves the thing for you. That's the whole aim. And then I guarantee, and since I know you know that, you know the truth, I'm glad you understand that very well. I know if you listen to this just before you do it and you come back after your experience, you'll be like, oh, it was awesome. I'll be happy to hear about it. Right? Because I know I will have helped you in the process of not taking over for you, because that's not the point of the seed planting. I'm not doing the job for you, but I'm just going to make it easier. Whatever you have in your mind, I'm going to help you get it out. So it's still your ideas, but instead of you like needing to play a campaign and going, I wish I would have done that, or play a second campaign, then you finally do it, or play a third campaign, finally do it. What these seeds do in the manipulation is to make it a lot where on that first run, a lot of that stuff is already in. So the idea that you need to do 2 or 3 goes away. And you're an older guy, so you don't get all the time in the world to do all this stuff. So if you do get the time to do it, which I would hope even on a one go you would, I want you to get closest as you can to having the best experience on that one run. And if you take the how to run it, the character creation, you listen to that again when you, so you get close to it, the better chance that you get more stuff done on the first run than needing to have two or three to achieve it. You'll have more success. And then a lot of stuff I say, again, is not in the book. It's not ideas. It's all about getting your best stuff out of you. So I never claim, oh, my ideas take over for a game master. It's just no, it's helping game masters with ideas overall, but it's just saying, I know there's something in your mind and it could take a bit to get out. But I understand the mechanics, so I'm going to get it out on purpose. Right. And I've actually went through the grind to do it. Like I went to the 3 campaigns to do the thing, right? Well, 4 campaigns with this in total. But I went through the multiple campaigns, got the wisdom, and then I know how to deliver it. That's why I always draw on people to come back. If you ever going to run this game I'm talking about, or ever run this setting I'm talking about, I really mean it when I tell people, come back and listen to the how to run it in character creation. It's not me trying to sell myself or boost my ego at that point. It's just like, these are good for selling the game to you, making you interested. That's what I hope they are. At the same time, they'll be super effective if you listen to them just before you do the thing. Right? And I know Bill at one point, if he listens to this later, has a chance, he's read some of this stuff. So he's a great test. I always, and you know this, Black Rose, I always have guys usually around that know the games I'm covering, and they always give me the thumbs up. Yep, you're right, boom. I'm guaranteed, I'm very confident, Bill will be like, yes, some good, like nothing contradicts what he knows about if he's read any of this game stuff. And he'll agree some of the stuff I mentioned here, if he's read it, yeah, it doesn't exactly say it in the game, but it lines up. Like nothing I'm saying wouldn't work with what he's read about the game, right? If he's read that much, he'll be like, yeah. So I'm pretty sure he'll be okay. And if he ever gets a chance, because he has the book, so good chance Bill might actually get an opportunity. I would say to Bill, it's not about me being better than you. That's not, I don't even claim to, that's not my ego. I like to help people. It'd just be a help you brainstorm, dude. We're all nerds. When we go to game, it's nice to sit down with someone who you can brainstorm with, right? Who can help you think, because you're just trying to come up with ideas. It's not about somebody being better than you. It's just about somebody helping you think. And what I guarantee game masters, even guys with more experience than me, for example, if that's even possible, haven't met one yet. But I mean, on just gaming alone. But if there is somebody, it wouldn't matter if they have more or less. It doesn't matter which way, it's brainstorming. So if he went to finally go, oh, I finally got players to run this, I would tell Bill right now, come back, listen to the how to run and the character creation stuff. And when you go to come up with your ideas after you listen to that stuff, you'll feel like you've had somebody sit and talk with you, help you brainstorm, help you get your best ideas out there for what you want to do with the whole thing, right? It's just reminder, seeds planting, and it's again a good. And once you learn how I'm seed planting, it's good to plant seeds in the players' minds. Like when you got to get players that are going to know too much in a general common sense, but you need them to play to the characters the way they are. You need to put seeds in their mind that sound fun. About how, I'm not going to describe it as a laser gun to you. I'm going to tell you something. I'll even show you an image. You'll know it's a laser gun. But the thing is, play along with the fact that your character doesn't, but that should be fun. And once you put a seed in and you remind your players of that, you put that seed in their heads of how just your approach to the explanation will communicate to them that you're communicating to them in the way that you expect them to take it in as characters. And when you communicate it in a way that you expect them to take it in as their characters, they'll want to play along with it, and then they'll have fun with it. Because then it's like, that would be interesting. Like, yeah, we don't just know this. Whoa, well, because they'll start role playing to the fact that they don't know what that is, right? Then you're having fun, because then the players will enjoy the mystery that's a mystery to their characters, even if it's less mystery to them. Like they'll start enjoying that, and then you'll enjoy them enjoying it. Trust me, that energy goes both ways, right? Once they start enjoying it, if you played long enough, Bill will probably know what I'm talking about. When you need a little bit of fake it, but people are playing into it, Like you see a game master doing a little, oh, you don't know what all this is, and players play into that. Anyone who's played long enough will understand what I mean by this. It doesn't matter how much both sides have to fake. You will strangely think that's awesome. There'll be a bit of energy, like, oh yeah, we don't know what that is, and they play on it. And game master, you'll get that energy back from your players, right? That's like, yeah, they don't know that. And then once you establish that that's how things are going to go going forward, now you can do it on other things, and the players are excited and ready to play to the mystery, even if, again, somewhat they know what's going on, and you know they know. Then the mystery can become fun, even if it's not exact mystery to the players. Sounds weird, but I promise it's a reality. And to any experienced gamers out there, they will agree with me. Like, it doesn't matter how obvious you know, it's just that energy of you pitching it in a way that's meant to be a mystery and players then playing along with it. Both sides, once the players have fun with that, that energy comes back to the game master. And then you're ready. You're excited to play on the mystery after that, right? And a game like this is going back to the 70s, where it just expects most people to be very confused by this stuff to begin with. You can't depend on that now. So since you can't depend on that in our timeline, because people know too much, you have to just get people to enjoy that they're play to the mystery that their characters are in, rather than depending on them as players, right, to be confused by it. So in that way, you can create mystery that's fun. Because it's still a challenge. Because when you put that type of mystery in, the players can now no longer just play to their own knowledge. This is a part of the game where you actually have to put a little heat on players. As much as you know, your character doesn't know that. And that has to become important in a game like Metamorphosis Alpha, right? You really are going to be, you have to be strict as a GM. That's some advice here, that guess what? No, they don't know how to use the laser gun right away. But it doesn't mean they can't make the effort to figure it out, push buttons, figure out how it shoots, and get the idea down. But you have to put some heat on them that they don't just know. And you have to introduce things like a voice comes out of the machine. It's like the voice of someone above you, like a powerful being is speaking to you. Well, it's a powerful being, but it's just a voice from the computer. Sounds like a bass behind it. That's what you mean. So your description of the voice doesn't mean they have to say, and you can say, you guys can choose to feel how you want about this, but initially your instincts feel this. So there's a difference between player agency. You don't want to take player agency away. So you can always introduce something like the voice seems overwhelming and very powerful at first. That's your instinctive reaction to it, right? But you guys can choose how you want to react with your characters. So it's instincts can be something you play with and still not steal player agency by just giving it back to them right away. Instincts can be like you hear a noise and think about something. Well, instincts are something a person in real life can't control. So a game master can justify a quick instinctive reaction, like, oh, a noise comes at you and you instinctively move your head like this, right? Or if you want, you can have them do a dice roll. It can be. It can be. It can be very much so. Sci-fi can be very, very interesting, right? But the main thing you got to do is, even if you get players to say they don't care what sci-fi, this is where I don't care about people's taste. It's going to sound really bad, Blackbirds, but here's the truth. I don't care what the setting is. I don't care what it is. You can tell me you like sci-fi or hate it. I won't give a shit. Here's what I'll tell players. Play. They'll be like, what do you mean? Like it or not, just play for the first 20 minutes. Just play. No phone, no talking at a character, completely focused, just play. They'll be like, why? Because I'm like, as soon as I get you into the flow, you won't care. You won't give a fuck. Everything will become interesting to you the moment you're in the flow. You'll be playing the game. You can tell me what you didn't like or did like, or all that will mean absolutely fucking trash all nothing. Once I get you in the flow, you'll play. One second. Calm down, kitten. You want to come in? It's my kitten crying right there. I'll take care of him soon. Poor kitten, Louie. He's waiting for me to be done with the stream, but he doesn't want to come to the room because he hates being around me when I'm talking like this. Right? He doesn't like. For whatever reason, he's not a big fan of me doing streams. I don't get it. I treat him like a king. I treat him better than I treat myself. But he just does not like the stream thing. He laid behind me for a good first hour, but he was sleeping, so it didn't matter to him. But yeah. It is the truth, Black Rose. It sounds bad because I know I like sci-fi. I like the stuff, and I agree with you. It just on as nerds, and if you like it, it's fucking awesome. But there is a truth to what I'm saying. There is a truth. I've taken many people that go, "Yeah, I don't care for sci-fi." I'm like, "All right, give me 20 minutes." And 20 minutes in, they play the game and have a good time. And they weirdly, they'll still walk out going, I still don't want to go watch a sci-fi movie, but I enjoyed the game. Be like, yeah, I know. That'd be it. So it's all bullshit when I hear people say they have taste. I'm like, look, there are certain elements that can make it so bad that it sticks out that you don't like it. But for the most part, if I have active things, if I'm doing good as a game master and you're just actively in a game, you will just play. There is something with the weirdness and all that. There's something samey about role playing. I tried. I remember Monkey saying to me, I should get like a cat cam. I don't know. Louis would just not stick around. He would just not stick around for it. And unlike some people, I'm not shy about going on camera in the way that he is. It took him a long time. I know we're talking about somebody specific, but it took him a long time to go on cam. And another rage bait guy, boring, limit, small ceiling, growth, rapid growth with a small ceiling. Same old. One guy's up to 13,000, but he's gone through AD&D 1E and Beckme. And he'll soon be at the end of Beckme, but that's his issue. At the end of Beckme, I don't know, the guy's in trouble. he's down to slowing it down to a single. He's like doing single classes and stuff. And I'm like, oh fuck, okay. Now the way he's doing it is playing to the algorithm. I understand what he's doing. Very, very fucking smart move. And it was out of nowhere because he did a lot of rage bait, attack content, attack on people, drama for a long time and got up to about 5,000 people. Then started on this whole AD&D. I don't want to mention names, but he started on AD&D 1E. But it's Yes Man content. It's Yes Man. So he's just telling you mostly stuff in the books already. All stuff explained in the Dragon magazines. There's nothing unique of his own opinions. And if you actually watch him play the games, you'd understand he doesn't have much to say beyond what the book says. But he plays the Yes Man content very well. I'll give it to him. He did AD&D 1E, very broke down, played the algorithm with it, and I could tell he knows the algorithm. I personally know he knows. Now, I don't do the cheap content in combination with the algorithm, so I don't get the same reaction he's getting because I don't do the cheap content. The problem is, as much as impressive as it looks right now, he's going to run out really quickly. Uh-oh. So it's one of these runs where it's like, okay, it's good. Seems really good, dude. I know the audience doesn't realize what's going on because he's up to like, I think 13,000 now, but it's almost time to go dry. But he's at the age where maybe he's just going to be satisfied with hitting a certain peak and stopping. Like, not stopping YouTube, but stopping that type of video growth where he's playing the algorithm really well. But for him to get certain views, you have to mix that with the yes man content. So you got to do he understands the algorithm. That's his secret. He learned that. I learned it too. But I don't do his content because his content has a ceiling. The problem with his ceiling is if you play to that ceiling, you can't go further. That's the only shitty part about it, right? It can look really impressive for a period of time. And it can help you sell some cheap books, or if you're a cheap car salesman, which some people are, you can sell a lot of cheap shit while you're doing that. Cheap old car salesman. It's what some of the old school guys remind me of. Certain, especially a specific one, reminds me of an old car salesman. Cheap, gimmicky old car salesman. Tells you what's in the book, what's in the Dungeon magazine. His own personal opinion, almost non-existent in the video. I'm like, okay, so he basically just repeats back to you what you already know. What you've already read. And what you agree with. Not you, but the people that are watching them. It's like, they already agree. Yay. One guy did it much better than him. That's an AD&D 1E guy that has like 40,000 subs, right? But you can't see, the problem for the guy going up to 13,000 is he does a stream where he says too much of the stuff that will stop him from 40,000. Because to get to 40,000, you can't play the politics at all. Like, controversial stuff cannot be said. Not just politics, but on anything. So that's a very clever yes man who's peaked out at about 40 to 50,000. But that's still a ceiling, right? Compared to what you can really get on YouTube. So I think Matt Colville, I used to check with his numbers recently, but one guy just updated me. He's over 1 million, I think, or something at this point. So his numbers are fucking huge. I'm like, if you really want to grow, that's where you want to reach, right? Hate to pick. It's interesting. It's just interesting to examine how the hobby works and how people work on here. Interesting to talk about it. Right? Interesting. I'd like to do a video on it, but I don't think the algorithm would be nice in a video because I do the tabletop role-playing and stuff. Even the video I did with that personal thing, I might do members only on it because it just doesn't help the channel. I know I did that one knowing the algorithm would not like it. So you gotta understand, even my promotional videos, the merch stuff, the algorithm will not like that video, and I know why. And I don't want to cheap out because if I cheap on a video like that, the audience wouldn't be happy with me either. Right? So in a weird way, I have to let it just be organic. Because if you're going to play the algorithm, it has to be the videos that are good for what people want to hear. That's another tricky thing with the algorithm. Because the algorithm, even if you can play it, you can hurt yourself with it. Lots of strange paradoxes in the hobby indeed. Strange people. Yep. Strange. They love short term. I don't get it. That's the part where I get the short term stuff. It always seems good in the short term. And guys like short term bursts of ego boost and confidence, but it tricks the audience for a while. I play the long game, as you know, Black Rose. It is. It really is. You start figuring out it's all short term though. It's just I'm like one of the only people around playing the long game. Like one of the only people playing a long game. Almost everyone plays the short one. That's why some guys are stuck at numbers. They'll get like 200 and some likes, maybe even a couple of thousand, and they're not growing like that other guy. They're at like 8,000 something. They're waiting for a hot moment, I guess. Hot opportunities, but cheap short term. They can't make it happen. They got to wait for it to happen. Short term flat, and I mean it's nice you flat line out though, because now you're just serving a certain specific audience, and there's not much more to them. But the thing is, here's what the only reason I examine it is all these guys want more. So they're not satisfied where they're at. Right. That's the gimmick. That's the secret. They're not satisfied where they're at all. Now, I don't mind slow growth, but I know I'll grow. See, I'm very super confident, right? I just am. I know where I'm going. I know the long game. I know everything. So I'm super confident. What really got my confidence up as a YouTuber was learning the algorithm so well. So even if they make changes, I can keep up to it now. But I'm not going to do the cheap stuff. So, and I don't need to prove to anybody. I just personally knowing it good. But it's like, you know it so well. Why aren't you rapidly going up? Well, I'm just not rapidly going up with the short ceiling guys. I have to go slow because I'm not a guy like Matt Colville who's made video games and already has an established name before I start YouTube. So it just takes a long time. But once you finally reach a certain point with a certain crowd, without all the gimmicks and the tricks, because Matt Colville point proved that. He's done most of his content without all the edits. He stands in front of the camera. He does not much different than I do. Almost nothing different than what I've done. So, and that guy's over 1 million. Now, I'm not saying I instantly jump up to him, but once you build up enough respect and trust with people and you hit a certain line, you go fast. Just waiting. That will take a long time, but I'll get there. And at least I'm aiming at a bigger audience. I have a long-term plan. I can even say it out loud, and there's not much people can do about it. Especially people stuck in an echo chamber where they just have no sway outside the echo chamber. And they're all starting to realize that too now. I remember when I used to say it and they used to not believe me. Now they know. Now it can't be denied. Okay. You know what? I think that's good enough for tonight. Right? I had a feeling a lot of people want to be into this because games like this are iffy, right? So, and I figured there might be other people going on doing other stuff, and it's just how it works. Okay. Off script, I'll have something to talk about. I'll announce it. That I figure Thursday will be a big one because it is the Temple of Elemental Evil. All right, Black Rose, I love you. Take care. Give you a second to say goodbye. So I know you're probably sitting there with the baby. Be a nice fella. Give you a moment. But yes, Temple of Elemental Evil. Just remember that Thursday. If you're here for the off script, remember you get to shoot the shit about whatever. Oh, I know how tonight works. Everyone was a little busy. I stream a lot. It happens. Okay, I love you. Talk to you soon.